When billionaire CEO Sierra Vale hired a broke single father to play her boyfriend for one weekend, she expected a simple transaction. What she didn't expect was a death threat against his 6-year-old daughter, a fall from a restaurant balcony, and the terrifying realization that some lies become the most dangerous truths you'll ever tell. This is the story of how a fake relationship became the realest thing either of them had ever known, and nearly cost them everything. If you're intrigued by stories of unexpected love, dangerous deception, and second chances, stay with me until the end. And if you enjoy this story, please hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. The corner office on the 47th floor of Vale Technologies had floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the San Francisco skyline, but Sierra Vale wasn't looking at the view. She was staring at her phone like it was a live grenade, her perfectly manicured finger hovering over the screen, unable to complete the call she desperately needed to make. "Just do it," she muttered to herself, her voice sharp in the empty office. "You've negotiated billion-dollar deals. You've faced down hostile board members. You can make one simple phone call." But there was nothing simple about calling your mother to confess that the someone special you'd mentioned, entirely fictional, conjured in a moment of weakness during a late-night conversation 3 months ago, didn't actually exist. That in 3 days, when her parents arrived for their annual visit, she'd have to admit that at 34 years old, she was still completely, utterly alone. Sierra set the phone down and walked to the window, her reflection ghosting in the glass. Designer suit, perfectly styled dark hair, the kind of polished exterior that commanded respect in boardrooms across the country. Everything about her screamed success, everything except the truth. 5 years ago, she'd had someone special. James had been her college sweetheart, her fiancé, her future. And then one rainy Tuesday morning, he'd been gone. A drunk driver, an intersection she passed every day on her way to work, a phone call that had shattered her world into before and after. She'd thrown herself into work, built Vale Technologies from a promising startup into a tech empire, proved that she didn't need anyone, that she was fine on her own, completely fine. Except she wasn't, and her mother had heard it in her voice during that late-night call. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the way Sierra's carefully constructed walls had momentarily crumbled. "I'm seeing someone," she'd said, the lie slipping out before she could stop it. "It's still new, but he's special, Mom, really special." The joy in her mother's voice had been immediate and overwhelming. Her father had gotten on the line, both of them talking over each other with excitement, relief, hope. Sierra had let them believe it because in that moment their happiness had felt like oxygen after years of holding her breath. Now, 3 days before they were scheduled to arrive, the oxygen had run out. "Ms. Vale?" Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Your 3 o'clock is here?" Sierra glanced at her calendar. Marcus Chen, VP of Operations, probably with another update on the Anderson merger, the deal that would expand Vale Technologies' reach into artificial intelligence and machine learning, positioning them as the dominant force in tech innovation for the next decade. The deal that a rival company, Nexus Corp, would do anything to sabotage. "Send him in," she said, straightening her shoulders and sliding back into CEO mode. But as Marcus droned on about due diligence and regulatory approvals, Sierra's mind wandered. She needed a solution, a miracle, "Are you listening, Sierra?" She blinked, refocusing on Marcus's concerned face. "Of course. The SEC filing needs to be submitted by Friday. I'm on it." After he left, Sierra grabbed her phone again. This time she didn't hesitate, but instead of calling her mother, she pulled up a search engine and typed, "Hire actor boyfriend San Francisco." The results were mostly escort services and dating coaches. She was about to give up when a small ad caught her eye. "Handyman for hire. No job too small." Below it was a phone number and a simple name, Logan Reed. It wasn't an actor. It wasn't even close to what she was looking for. But something about the straightforward simplicity of it made her pause. Her cursor hovered over the number. Before she could talk herself out of it, she dialed. The phone rang 4 times before a male voice answered, slightly breathless. "Logan Reed." Sierra opened her mouth and found herself at a complete loss. What was she supposed to say? "Hi, I'm a billionaire who needs someone to pretend to love me for a weekend?" "Hello?" the voice prompted, a hint of impatience creeping in. "I saw your ad," Sierra said quickly, "for handyman services." "Right. What do you need fixed?" Everything, she thought. Actually, I need to hire you for something different. There was a pause. I don't do that kind of different, lady. No! Sierra felt heat rush to her cheeks. That's not... I need someone to pose as my boyfriend for a weekend. It's completely professional. I'll pay you $10,000. The silence on the other end stretched so long she thought he'd hung up. $10,000, Logan finally said, his tone flat. To pretend to be your boyfriend. For one weekend. My parents are visiting. They think I'm seeing someone. I need to make it convincing. She was talking too fast but couldn't seem to stop. Dinner Friday night, brunch Saturday, maybe a casual lunch Sunday before they fly out. That's it. 3 days, $10,000. What's the catch? Sierra hesitated. No catch. Just be charming. Act like you care about me. Convince my parents we're happy together. Another long pause. She could hear sounds in the background. A child's voice. Cartoons, maybe. I have a daughter, Logan said finally. 6 years old. This weekend thing. Would it interfere with my time with her? Bring her, Sierra said impulsively. If you want. It might actually make the whole thing seem more real. She heard him exhale slowly. 20,000. Excuse me? If you want me to bring my kid into this, the price is 20,000. And I'm not sleeping on your couch or pretending to be something I'm not behind closed doors. This is an acting job. Period. Sierra felt a smile tug at her lips despite herself. Deal. Can we meet today to discuss details? I'm working until 6. After that, I've got Mia. Your daughter? Yeah. Give me your address. I'll come to you at 7. Logan rattled off an address in the Sunset District, and Sierra made a note in her phone. After they hung up, she stared at the screen, wondering what exactly she'd just set in motion. Probably a disaster, but at least it was a disaster with a plan. At 6:58 p.m., Sierra stood outside a modest apartment building, checking the address 3 times to make sure she had it right. The neighborhood was quiet, residential, the kind of place where families lived and kids rode bikes on the sidewalk. So far from her world of penthouse luxury that it might as well have been another planet. She pressed the buzzer for apartment 3B. Come on up, Logan's voice crackled through the speaker. The building's interior was clean but worn, the carpet in the hallway faded from years of foot traffic. Sierra climbed to the 3rd floor and found Logan's door already open, him standing in the doorway. He was taller than she'd imagined from his voice, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that needed a trim and hazel eyes that assessed her with the same directness she used in boardrooms. He wore jeans and a faded t-shirt, his arms corded with the kind of muscle that came from physical labor rather than gym memberships. Handsome in an unpolished, real way that made her designer heels suddenly feel ridiculous. Miss Vale, I presume, he said, not moving from the doorway. Sierra, she corrected. If we're going to convince anyone we're dating, you should probably use my first name. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Fair enough. Come in. The apartment was small but surprisingly warm. Colorful drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys were neatly organized in bins along one wall, and children's books were stacked on a coffee table next to what looked like medical bills. Daddy, who's that? Sierra turned to find a little girl emerging from a hallway, clutching a stuffed unicorn. She had Logan's hazel eyes and a riot of blonde curls that suggested her mother's genetics. She wore purple pajamas with unicorns that matched her stuffed animal. This is Ms. Sierra, Logan said. She's here to talk to Daddy about a job. Mia, why don't you go back to your room for a few minutes? But I want to meet her, Mia said, tilting her head with shameless curiosity. Is she your girlfriend? Logan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. No, sweetheart. She's a client. Mia patted closer, looking up at Sierra with frank interest. You're really pretty, like a princess. Something in Sierra's chest twisted unexpectedly. She crouched down to Mia's level, her expensive suit be damned. Thank you. I love your unicorn. What's their name? Sparkles, Mia said seriously. She can do magic, but only when she feels safe. That's very wise of Sparkles, Sierra said softly. Everyone needs to feel safe to do their best magic. Mia beamed, and Sierra felt Logan's eyes on her, reassessing. "Okay, Mia Bug," Logan said gently. "Bedtime. Say goodnight to Ms. Sierra." "Good night, Miss Sierra." Mia threw her arms around Sierra's neck in an impulsive hug before Sierra could react. The little girl smelled like strawberry shampoo and innocence, and Sierra found herself hugging back before Mia bounded off down the hall. Sierra stood slowly, aware of Logan watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "She doesn't usually warm up to strangers that fast," he said quietly. "She's lovely," Sierra replied, meaning it. Logan gestured to the couch. "So, $20,000 to pretend we're in love. Walk me through exactly what you're expecting." Sierra sat, and he settled into a worn armchair across from her. "My parents are arriving Friday evening. I told them I was seeing someone special, and now they're expecting to meet him." Why lie? The directness of the question caught her off guard. "Because they worry about me. Because I'm tired of being their source of concern. Because for one weekend I want them to believe I'm not as alone as I actually am." Something shifted in Logan's expression. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. "When did you lose him?" Sierra's breath caught. "What?" "Whoever you lost. The person who made you this afraid of being alone." He said it without judgment, just simple observation. She looked away, focusing on a crayon drawing of a rainbow taped to the wall. 5 years ago. Car accident. "I'm sorry." The words were quiet, sincere in a way that made her throat tight. "What about Mia's mother?" "Left when Mia was 2. Logan's voice went flat. "Decided motherhood wasn't what she wanted. Haven't heard from her since." They sat in silence for a moment, two people who'd both lost something essential, studying each other across the small living room. "So this arrangement," Logan said finally. "What exactly does it involve?" Sierra pulled out her phone, opening the notes she'd prepared. "Dinner Friday night at my place. My parents will want to see where I live, meet you in a comfortable environment. Saturday brunch at a restaurant, somewhere nice but not ostentatious. Saturday evening is flexible, maybe a casual activity. Sunday lunch before they fly out at 4. And you want me to bring Mia?" "I think it would help sell the story. A single father, a ready-made family. My parents would love it." Logan leaned back, rubbing his jaw. "You understand what you're asking, right? You want me to let my daughter participate in a lie. To let her meet your parents and think this is real." "I'll make sure she understands it's pretend," Sierra said quickly. "Like playing house. Kids do that all the time. Kids also get attached. Kids also get confused when adults they trust involve them in complicated situations." Logan's eyes were hard now. Mia's had enough disappointment in her short life. "I'm not adding to it unless I'm absolutely sure this won't hurt her." Sierra felt a flash of irritation. "I'm offering you $20,000. That's more than most people make in months." "Yeah, and I need it." Logan gestured to the stack of medical bills on the coffee table. "Mia has asthma, severe enough that we've had 3 ER visits this year. My insurance is garbage, and I'm drowning in debt. So believe me, I need your money, but not at the cost of my daughter's emotional well-being." The irritation faded as quickly as it had come, replaced by reluctant respect. "What if I promise that if, at any point Mia seems uncomfortable or confused, we stop? No questions asked, and I still pay you the full amount." Logan studied her for a long moment. "Why me? You could hire a professional actor, someone who does this kind of thing." "I don't know," Sierra admitted. "I saw your ad and something about it felt honest, real. Maybe that's what I need right now, someone who doesn't make a living out of pretending." "But that's exactly what you're hiring me to do, pretend. For my parents, not with me." She met his eyes. "I need someone I can be honest with when the cameras are off, so to speak. Someone who won't judge me for being a 34-year-old CEO who's so terrified of disappointing her parents that she'd rather lie than tell them the truth." Logan was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to the window, looking out at the street below. $20,000. Half up front, half when your parents leave Sunday. "Agreed. I have final say on anything involving Mia. If I think something's wrong for her, we change the plan." "Of course." He turned back to face her. And you need to understand something. I'm a carpenter. I build things with my hands. I don't own a suit. I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners. If you're expecting me to transform into some polished version of a boyfriend, you hired the wrong guy." Sierra stood, crossing to where he stood by the window. "My parents don't care about that. They care about whether I'm happy, whether someone treats me well. Can you do that? Can you look at me like I matter for 3 days?" Logan held her gaze, and something electric passed between them, an awareness, a recognition of the game they were about to play and the danger of playing it too well. "Yeah," he said finally. "I can do that." "Then we have a deal." Sierra extended her hand. Logan took it, his palm calloused and warm against hers. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow. I'll send a car to pick you and Mia up at 6. We need to rehearse, get our story straight. My parents arrive Friday at 7. "A car?" Logan raised an eyebrow. "I don't drive," Sierra said simply. It was easier than explaining that she hadn't been behind a wheel since the accident, that the thought of it made her break out in cold sweat. Right. Billionaire problems. She couldn't tell if he was mocking her or not, but she chose to let it go. "I'll wire the first payment tonight, $10,000. "I'll believe it when I see it." Sierra pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. "Account number?" Logan rattled it off, watching with barely concealed skepticism as she typed in the transfer. 30 seconds later, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and his eyes widened as he read the notification. "You just transferred $10,000 from your phone. Is that a problem?" "No, it's just—" He shook his head. "Your world and mine are very different, Sierra." "I'm aware." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Logan? Thank you for considering this. I know it's strange." Strange is an understatement, but his voice had softened slightly. "See you tomorrow at 6. As Sierra rode the elevator down, she wondered what exactly she'd just set in motion. Logan Reed wasn't what she'd expected. He was rougher around the edges, more protective, more real than she'd anticipated. And Mia, sweet, curious Mia, who hugged strangers and named her unicorn Sparkles, was a complication Sierra hadn't fully considered. But it was too late to back out now. The money was transferred. The plan was in motion. All she had to do was convince her parents that she'd found love again, without actually letting herself feel anything real. How hard could that be? The Blacktown car arrived at Logan's building at precisely 6 p.m. the next evening. Sierra watched from the back seat as Logan emerged carrying Mia, who wore a pink dress and clutched Sparkles to her chest. She looked nervous, her free hand gripping her father's shoulder. Logan looked different in clean jeans and a button-down shirt, his hair freshly trimmed. Still not polished, but presentable. Handsome in a way that made Sierra's stomach flutter unexpectedly. The driver opened the door, and Logan helped Mia into the car before sliding in beside her. "Wow," Mia breathed, taking in the leather seats and the small LED lights along the ceiling. "This is like a princess car." "It's just a car, sweetheart," Logan said, but he was looking at Sierra with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Evening." "Good evening," Sierra replied. "Mia, you look beautiful." Mia beamed. "Daddy said we were going to your castle." Sierra bit back a smile. "I don't have a castle, just a penthouse." "What's a penthouse?" "An apartment very high up in a building," Logan explained. He met Sierra's eyes over Mia's head. "We had a talk about tonight. Mia understands we're helping you with a special project." "Like playing pretend?" Mia asked. "Exactly like that," Sierra confirmed. "My mommy and daddy are coming to visit, and I told them I had a special friend. So we're going to pretend that your daddy is my special friend." "Like a boyfriend?" "Yes." Mia considered this seriously. "Okay, I'm good at pretend. Sometimes I pretend Sparkles is real and can talk." "What does Sparkles say?" Sierra asked. Mia held up the unicorn. "She says you look sad sometimes, even when you smile." The observation, delivered with such innocent honesty, hit Sierra like a physical blow. Logan tensed beside his daughter, clearly about to redirect the conversation, but Sierra spoke first. "Sparkles is very perceptive," she said softly. "Sometimes I am sad, but I'm trying to be better." Mia nodded sagely. Daddy says it's okay to be sad sometimes. That's how you know you love something. Sierra's throat tightened. She looked at Logan, who gave a small, almost apologetic shrug. The rest of the drive passed in lighter conversation, with Mia asking endless questions about the city lights and the buildings they passed. By the time they pulled up to Sierra's building, the little girl was practically vibrating with excitement. The doorman greeted them with professional courtesy that didn't quite hide his surprise at seeing Sierra with guests. She led them to the private elevator, using her keycard to access the penthouse level. "Ready?" she asked as the elevator climbed. "As we'll ever be," Logan replied. The elevator doors opened directly into Sierra's penthouse, and Mia gasped. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, now glittering with evening lights. The space was all clean lines and expensive minimalism, beautiful in an untouchable way. "It's so big," Mia whispered, still clutching sparkles. "Would you like to see the guest room?" Sierra asked. "I thought maybe you could play there while your dad and I talk." Mia looked to Logan, who nodded. Sierra led them down a hallway to a bedroom she'd hastily tried to make child-friendly that afternoon, adding some stuffed animals from a toy store, colorful pillows, and a small selection of books. "This is all for me?" Mia's eyes were wide. "Just for tonight," Sierra said. "You can play here, and we'll come check on you soon. Okay?" Mia nodded and immediately went to investigate the stuffed animals. Logan watched his daughter for a moment, then followed Sierra back to the living room. "You didn't have to do all that," he said quietly. "I wanted her to be comfortable." Sierra moved to the kitchen, pulling out 2 glasses and a bottle of wine. "Drink?" "Sure." She poured them each a glass and gestured to the couch. They sat at opposite ends, the space between them feeling both vast and charged. "So," Logan said, "tell me about your parents. What do I need to know?" Sierra took a sip of wine, organizing her thoughts. "My father, Robert, is a retired mathematics professor. Very logical, very protective. He'll ask you questions, lots of them. He'll want to know your intentions, your background, your prospects." "Prospects?" Logan raised an eyebrow. "Like, this is the 19th century?" "He's old-fashioned about some things. My mother, Catherine, is warmer. She taught art history before retiring. She'll want to know how we met, how I make you happy, whether you appreciate the real me versus the CEO version." "And what's the difference between those versions?" Sierra looked down at her wine. "The CEO is confident, decisive, always in control. The real me is less certain about most things." "Including this plan?" "Especially this plan." She met his eyes. "But I'm committed now." "Are you?" "For $20,000? "Yeah, I'm committed." Logan set down his wine glass. "So, how did we meet? We need a story." Sierra had been thinking about this all day. "You were doing renovation work at Vail Technologies. We met when I came to inspect the construction progress." "Romantic," Logan said dryly. "You made me laugh," Sierra continued, building the story as she went. "You said something about how the architect had designed the space like someone who'd never actually built anything, and I appreciated your honesty. We started talking. You asked me to coffee." "Did I?" "Yes, and I said no the first 3 times you asked." Logan smiled slightly. "Why?" "Because I didn't date, because I was scared. But you were persistent." "How persistent?" "You showed up at my office with coffee from the place across the street and said if I wouldn't go to coffee with you, you'd bring coffee to me until I changed my mind." "That's actually not bad," Logan admitted. "Persistent, but not creepy. That's what won me over. You weren't intimidated by who I was. You saw me as just Sierra." They continued building the story, adding details and moments, finding a rhythm that felt almost natural. How long they'd been dating, 3 months. Where they'd gone for their first real date, a small Italian restaurant Logan actually knew well enough to describe. What had made Sierra fall for him? His devotion to Mia, his honesty, the way he built things with his hands and believed in creating something real. An hour passed, then another. The wine bottle emptied. Somewhere in the process, they'd moved closer together on the couch, their knees almost touching as they leaned toward each other, perfecting their fictional love story. "Okay, here's a question your mom will definitely ask," Sierra said. "What do you love most about me?" Logan looked at her, really looked at her, and the playfulness faded from his expression. "The fact that you're trying," he said quietly. "You're this powerful CEO, and you could have just told your parents the truth, but you care enough about their happiness to go through all this. That takes courage. Maybe the wrong kind, but it's still courage." Sierra felt her breath catch. That's a good answer. What about you? What do you supposedly love about me?" She should have a flip answer ready, something rehearsed and safe. Instead, she heard herself say, "The way you protect Mia, the way you're willing to do something uncomfortable for her sake. You're a good father. That's not something you can fake." The air between them felt suddenly charged. Logan's gaze dropped to her lips for just a fraction of a second before he pulled back, standing abruptly. "I should check on Mia," he said, his voice rougher than before. Sierra nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She watched him disappear down the hallway, then pressed her hands to her flushed cheeks. This was supposed to be simple. A transaction. 3 days of pretending, and then back to their separate lives. So why did it already feel like something more? Get. Logan found Mia curled up on the guest bed, half asleep with sparkles tucked under her chin. He sat beside her, brushing blonde curls back from her forehead. "Hey, Mia Bug, time to go home." "Do we have to?" Mia murmured sleepily. "It's nice here." "Sierra's apartment is pretty cool, huh?" "She's nice, Daddy. Are you really going to be her boyfriend?" Logan hesitated. "Just for pretend, remember? To help her with her parents, but you like her, I can tell." Kids saw too much, Logan thought, especially his daughter, who'd learned to read his moods and silences like some people read books. "She's interesting," he said carefully. "But it's just a job, sweetheart. After this weekend, things go back to normal." "Okay," Mia said, but she sounded disappointed. Logan carried her back to the living room where Sierra was waiting by the elevator. She'd composed herself, slipping back into CEO mode with impressive speed. "Thank you for coming," she said formally. "Tomorrow evening, 6 p.m., I'll have the car pick you up again." "We'll be ready," Logan replied, shifting Mia's weight in his arms. In the elevator, Mia lifted her head from Logan's shoulder. "Daddy?" "Yeah, Bug?" "I think Sierra needs a friend. A real one." Logan looked down at his perceptive daughter. "Yeah, Mia, I think you might be right." The elevator doors closed, carrying them back down to street level, back to their real life. But Logan couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight, that the line between pretending and reality was already blurrier than he'd anticipated, and they hadn't even met Sierra's parents yet. But Friday evening arrived with the inexorable certainty of a deadline. Sierra had spent the day in back-to-back meetings about the Anderson merger, trying to focus on acquisition strategies and market projections, while her mind kept drifting to the performance she'd have to give in a few hours. At 5 p.m., she left the office early, something she never did, and went home to prepare. She changed clothes 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft cashmere sweater. Casual, but still put together. The kind of thing someone might wear when introducing her boyfriend to her parents. The caterer arrived at 6 with everything she'd ordered. Her mother's favorite roasted chicken, her father's preferred wine, a selection of sides that looked homemade but weren't. Sierra arranged everything carefully, trying to make the sterile perfection of her penthouse look lived in and warm. At 6:30, Logan and Mia arrived. Logan wore the same button-down shirt from the previous night, but he'd paired it with dark slacks that actually fit well. Mia had on a different dress, blue this time, with a cardigan against the evening chill. "How do I look?" Logan asked, spreading his arms. "Boyfriend material?" "You'll do," Sierra said, but her mouth twitched with amusement. Mia giggled. "Daddy tried on 4 different shirts." 3, Logan corrected, giving his daughter a look. "And you're not supposed to tell people that." "Sparkles says honesty is important." "Sparkles needs to learn about strategic silence," Logan muttered, but he was smiling. Sierra felt some of her tension ease. They could do this. They'd rehearsed enough. As long as her parents didn't ask too many probing questions, as long as she and Logan could maintain the fiction for just a few meals, everything would be fine. Her phone buzzed at 6:45. A text from her mother. "Landed early. In the car. Should be there by 7:15. So excited to meet him." They'll be here in 30 minutes, Sierra announced, and her carefully suppressed anxiety came rushing back. Logan must have seen it in her face because he crossed to her, placing his hands on her shoulders. Hey, breathe. We've got this. What if they don't believe us? What if they can tell we're lying? Then we'll deal with it. But Sierra, they want to believe you're happy. That's going to work in our favor. He was right. She knew he was right. But knowing it didn't stop her hands from shaking slightly as she smoothed down her sweater. Come here, Logan said gently, pulling her into a hug. Sierra stiffened in surprise, then slowly relaxed into it. He was solid and warm, and he smelled like sawdust and something clean, soap maybe. It had been so long since anyone had hugged her like this, like she was something precious worth protecting. Better? He asked against her hair. Yeah, she whispered. Thank you. They pulled apart, and Logan kept one hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Your parents love you, remember that. Everything else is just details. Mia appeared beside them, holding up Sparkles. Sparkles says you need to smile more. When you smile, your eyes get happy. Sierra crouched down to Mia's level, managing a genuine smile. Sparkles is very wise. Will you help me remember to smile tonight? Uh-huh, Mia nodded enthusiastically. And I can tell your mommy and daddy about how you gave me the princess room. Logan winced. Mia, we talked about this. You're going to stay in the guest room during dinner, remember? Just like we practiced. But I want to meet them. And you will, Sierra said impulsively. Later. After dinner, you can come say hello. Okay? Logan shot her a look. This wasn't part of the plan, but Mia was already beaming. Okay. At 7:14, the doorman called up. Ms. Vale, your parents are here. Send them up, Sierra said, her voice steadier than she felt. She turned to Logan, who straightened his shirt one last time. Ready? As I'll ever be. They positioned themselves in the living room, standing close but not touching, trying to look like a couple comfortable in each other's presence. Mia had been settled in the guest room with her tablet and promises she could come out later. The elevator chimed, the doors slid open, and Sierra's parents stepped into the penthouse, her mother's face already alight with joy and anticipation. Sierra! Catherine Vale was across the room in seconds, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. She was in her early 60s, elegantly dressed, with silver-streaked dark hair and the same sharp eyes as her daughter. We've been so excited for this. Robert Vale followed more slowly, a tall man with glasses and professorial bearing. His gaze went immediately to Logan, assessing and protective. Sierra extracted herself from her mother's embrace, her heart hammering. Mom, Dad, this is Logan Reed. Logan, these are my parents, Catherine and Robert. Logan stepped forward, extending his hand to Robert first. Mr. Vale, it's a pleasure to meet you. Robert shook it, his grip firm and measuring. Logan, Sierra's told us very little about you. I'm looking forward to learning more. Dad, Sierra said with a nervous laugh. Let them at least get settled before the interrogation begins. Catherine had moved to Logan, taking his hand in both of hers. It's wonderful to meet you, Logan. Sierra sounds so happy when she talks about you. The feeling's mutual, Mrs. Vale, Logan said, and Sierra was struck by how naturally the words came. She's pretty remarkable. Please call me Catherine. She looked between them, her expression soft with hope. And you must call him Robert, though he'll pretend to be stern about it. I am stern, Robert protested, but there was warmth in his eyes. Sierra guided them to the dining table where the food was laid out beautifully. As they settled into their seats, her mother kept sneaking glances at Logan, clearly trying to piece together how this relationship had formed. So, Logan, Robert said once wine was poured, what is it you do? I'm a carpenter, Logan replied easily. Custom furniture, renovation work, some restoration projects. I was working on a job at Vale Technologies when I met Sierra. A carpenter, Catherine said, and Sierra couldn't tell if the note in her mother's voice was approval or surprise. How wonderful. Working with your hands, creating things. That must be very satisfying. It is, Logan agreed. There's something honest about it. You can see the direct result of your effort. No ambiguity. Unlike tech, Robert observed, which is nothing but ambiguity and abstraction. Dad, Sierra warned, but Logan was smiling. I wouldn't say that, sir. What Sierra does, building systems, creating innovation, that's another kind of creation. Just as real, just more complex. Robert's eyebrows rose slightly, clearly not expecting to be contradicted. You understand what she does? Not entirely, Logan admitted, but I understand the passion it takes. The commitment to seeing something through from concept to completion. That's the same whether you're building a table or building a company. Sierra felt warmth spread through her chest. He was perfect, not trying too hard, not pretending to be something he wasn't, just being genuinely himself in a way that was somehow exactly right. The conversation flowed more easily after that. Catherine asked about how they'd met, and Sierra and Logan tag-teamed the story they'd rehearsed, filling in details and finishing each other's sentences with surprising ease. Her mother kept beaming, clearly delighted by every small detail. They were halfway through the main course when Catherine asked, "Do you have family here, Logan, in San Francisco?" Logan's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "Just my daughter, Mia. She's 6. The revelation landed like a stone in still water. Catherine's eyes widened and Robert set down his fork. "You have a child," Robert said slowly. "I do." Logan met his gaze steadily. "I'm a single father. Mia's mother left when she was 2. It's been just the 2 of us since then." Sierra held her breath, waiting for her parents' reaction. This was the moment where everything could fall apart, where they could decide Logan wasn't suitable, wasn't right for their daughter. But Catherine's expression had softened impossibly. "A little girl. How wonderful. Where is she tonight?" "Actually, she's here," Sierra said, "in the guest room. I thought she could meet you after dinner, if that's okay." "Oh, we'd love that." Catherine was practically glowing now. "Robert, did you hear? A granddaughter." "Potential granddaughter," Robert corrected, but his voice had gentled. He looked at Logan. "That must have been difficult, raising a child alone." "It's been the greatest privilege of my life," Logan said simply. "She's the reason I get up every morning. Everything I do is for her." Something shifted in Robert's expression. Recognition, perhaps, or respect. "Sierra mentioned you were persistent when you asked her out. I imagine that persistence comes from being a father, knowing what matters and not giving up on it." "Exactly that," Logan agreed. Sierra reached for Logan's hand under the table without thinking, and he laced his fingers through hers automatically. The gesture felt natural, real, and when her mother noticed, which she did immediately, her entire face lit up. They finished dinner with lighter conversation, Catherine asking about Mia's interest and whether she liked school. Logan sharing carefully edited stories about his daughter's precocious observations and boundless energy. Robert watched it all with his professor's intensity, but Sierra could see him warming to Logan, appreciating his directness and obvious devotion to his child. Finally, Catherine couldn't wait any longer. "Can we meet her, your daughter?" Logan glanced at Sierra, who nodded. He stood and walked down the hallway, returning a moment later with Mia, who was clutching Sparkles and looking suddenly shy in the face of strangers. "Mia, these are Sierra's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Vale." "You can call me Catherine, sweetheart," Sierra's mother said, her voice impossibly gentle. She crouched down to Mia's level. "And what a beautiful unicorn. What's her name?" "Sparkles," Mia whispered. Then, gaining confidence, "She does magic when she feels safe." "That's very special," Catherine said seriously. "I think Sparkles must be very powerful indeed." Robert had also stood, moving closer to get a better look at Mia. "Hello, young lady. I hear you're 6 years old." Mia nodded. "Do you like books?" Another nod, more enthusiastic this time. "What's your favorite?" "The one about the dragon who makes friends with a girl," Mia said. "Daddy reads it to me every night." "A dragon," Robert mused. "That sounds like an excellent choice. Perhaps I could read you a story sometime, if your father doesn't mind sharing the duty." Mia looked up at Logan, who squeezed her shoulder gently. "I think that would be nice, Bug." Sierra watched her parents fall completely in love with this little girl, and something in her chest ached. This was supposed to be pretend, a performance. But the way her mother was smiling at Mia, the way her father was gently asking about her favorite subjects in school, it was all too real, too right. And when Mia looked at her and said, Sierra's really nice, isn't she, Daddy? With such honest affection, Sierra had to look away before the tears could form. She really is, Logan agreed, his voice soft. They spent another hour in the living room, Mia charming Sierra's parents with her observations and innocence, until she started yawning and Logan announced it was time to get her home. We could stay, Catherine offered. Give you a break from bedtime routine. Mom, they just met you, Sierra said, but she was smiling. We'd love to see you tomorrow, Logan said diplomatically. Brunch, right? Sierra mentioned a restaurant. The Blue Iris, at 11, Sierra confirmed. I'll send a car for you. We can take a cab, Logan started, but Robert shook his head. Let her send the car. She likes taking care of people, even if she pretends she doesn't. Sierra flushed, but didn't argue. At the elevator, Catherine hugged Logan tightly. Thank you for making my daughter happy, she whispered, loud enough for Sierra to hear. I can see how much you care about her. She makes it easy, Logan replied, and met Sierra's eyes over Catherine's shoulder. The look that passed between them was complicated, layered with performance and something underneath that neither of them seemed quite ready to name. After they left, Mia waving goodbye as the elevator doors closed, Sierra stood with her parents in the suddenly quiet penthouse. He's lovely, Catherine announced. Absolutely lovely. And that little girl, Sierra, she's precious. I know, Sierra said softly. Robert was quieter, more thoughtful. He's different from what I expected. Different how? More substantial, more real. Robert looked at his daughter with those sharp, assessing eyes. I worried you'd chosen someone safe, someone who wouldn't challenge you or make you feel too much. But Logan, he's not safe, is he? He's the kind of man who could matter. Sierra's throat tightened. Yeah, Dad. He could matter. Good, Robert said, pulling her into a rare hug. You deserve someone who matters. After her parents left for their hotel, Catherine still gushing about Mia, Robert asking pointed questions about Logan's business and prospects, Sierra stood alone in her penthouse, staring out at the city lights. One dinner down. 2 more days to go. She could do this. As long as she remembered it was all pretend, even if, increasingly, it didn't feel that way at all. Sierra woke Saturday morning to sunlight streaming through her floor-to-ceiling windows, and the disorienting realization that she'd slept better than she had in months. She lay still for a moment, trying to understand why, until the previous evening came flooding back. Her parents' delight, Mia's sweet shyness, the way Logan had handled every question with such natural ease. The way his hand had felt in hers under the table, warm and solid and unexpectedly right. She sat up abruptly, pushing the thought away. This was a performance. A well-executed performance, admittedly, but nothing more. The fact that her body seemed to have forgotten that distinction was irrelevant and unhelpful. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Can't wait for brunch. Your father couldn't stop talking about Logan last night. He's already planning fishing trips. Sierra smiled despite herself, typing back, Tell Dad not to scare him off. Impossible. That man isn't going anywhere. A mother knows these things. If only, Sierra thought, setting the phone down. She showered and dressed carefully. A soft blue dress that her mother had bought her last Christmas, still with the tags on until this morning. Her mother would notice and be pleased. Another small detail in the elaborate fiction they were constructing. The car service confirmed Logan and Mia's pickup for 10:30, which would get them to the restaurant with time to spare. Sierra had chosen the Blue Iris specifically because it had a garden terrace where Mia could move around if she got restless, and because the chef knew her well enough to accommodate any special requests. She arrived 15 minutes early, found her parents already seated at the best table on the terrace, and felt her stomach clench with familiar anxiety. Sweetheart, Catherine stood to embrace her. You look beautiful. That dress is perfect on you. Thanks, Mom. You said that when you bought it. And I was right then, too. Catherine's eyes sparkled with knowing amusement. Your father's been interrogating the waiter about the menu. I think he's nervous. Nervous? Robert looked up from the menu with professorial dignity. I'm simply ensuring they have options suitable for a 6-year-old. Children can be particular about food. Sierra felt something warm bloom in her chest. Her father, the rational mathematician who'd always seemed slightly bewildered by children, was worried about Mia's lunch preferences. "That's very thoughtful, Dad." "Yes, well." Robert adjusted his glasses, a tell that he was uncomfortable with the sentiment. "She seemed like a bright child. Bright children deserve proper consideration." Before Sierra could respond, she spotted Logan and Mia approaching through the restaurant. Mia wore a yellow dress with white flowers, her blonde curls pulled back with a matching headband, and she was holding Logan's hand while pointing excitedly at the garden's fountain. Logan had on dark slacks and a light gray shirt that brought out his hazel eyes, and Sierra's traitorous heart did a small flip at the sight of him. He looked good. Too good for someone who was supposed to be a temporary arrangement. "There they are," Catherine announced unnecessarily, already waving. Mia spotted them and broke into a run, Logan following at a more sedate pace with an apologetic smile. The little girl launched herself at Catherine with the kind of trust that only children possessed, and Sierra's mother caught her with a delighted laugh. "Good morning, sweetheart. Don't you look pretty as a picture?" "Daddy said I had to wear my nice dress," Mia announced, "and I couldn't bring sparkles because restaurants are for people, not unicorns." "Very sensible," Robert said gravely, "though I'm sure Sparkles understands." Logan reached the table and Sierra found herself standing to greet him without conscious thought. He leaned in, pressing a light kiss to her temple, such a casual gesture of affection that it almost felt natural. "Morning," he murmured, low enough that only she could hear. "How are we doing?" "So far, so good," she whispered back. "Dad's already planning fishing trips." "Is he now?" Logan's mouth quirked with amusement as he turned to shake Robert's hand. "Good morning, sir. Catherine." They settled into their seats, Mia between Logan and Catherine, chattering happily about the fountain and the flowers, and whether the birds in the garden could understand people if you talked to them nicely enough. "I think they can," Catherine said seriously. "Birds are very perceptive creatures." "That's what I told Daddy," Mia beamed at finding an ally. Logan caught Sierra's eye across the table, and she had to bite back a smile at his expression, equal parts exasperated affection and resignation to being outnumbered by the women in his life. The waiter appeared to take their orders, and Robert had indeed researched the children's menu, suggesting several options to Mia with the kind of thorough analysis he usually reserved for mathematical proofs. Mia listened intently, then announced she wanted the mac and cheese with extra cheese. "A woman who knows what she wants," Robert approved. "Excellent decision-making." As they waited for food, Catherine leaned forward with the expression Sierra knew meant she was about to ask something personal. "Logan, Sierra mentioned you met while working on a renovation project. What made you decide to ask her out?" Logan didn't hesitate, and Sierra recognized the story they'd rehearsed. "She was different from what I expected. I'd heard about this brilliant CEO, this powerhouse in the tech world, and I assumed she'd be, intimidating, unapproachable. And she wasn't?" Catherine's tone suggested she knew her daughter could absolutely be both those things. "Oh, she was definitely intimidating," Logan said, and Sierra felt heat rise to her cheeks. "But she was also real. She asked me questions about the work, actually listened to the answers, called out a design flaw that everyone else had missed. She cared about getting it right, not just getting it done." "That sounds like Sierra," Robert observed. "When I asked her to coffee, she said no." Logan's smile turned self-deprecating. 3 times, actually, but I'm stubborn when something matters." "What changed her mind?" Catherine asked. Logan looked directly at Sierra, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. "I showed up at her office with coffee from that place across the street. What's it called?" "Brewed Awakening," Sierra supplied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Right. I told her if she wouldn't go to coffee with me, I'd bring coffee to her until she changed her mind." He paused. "She called me arrogant." "I did not," Sierra protested. "You absolutely did. You said, 'That's either the most arrogant thing I've ever heard or the most romantic, and I haven't decided which yet." Catherine laughed, delighted. "And which did you decide, sweetheart?" Sierra met Logan's eyes, feeling the lines between performance and reality blur dangerously. "I'm still deciding." The moment stretched between them, charged with something that felt far too genuine for comfort. Mia broke it by asking loudly whether she could feed the birds, and Catherine immediately offered to take her to get breadcrumbs from the kitchen, leaving Sierra alone with Logan and her father. Robert waited until they were out of earshot before speaking. "You care about my daughter." It wasn't a question, but Logan answered anyway. "Yes, sir. Very much. She's been alone for a long time, by choice mostly, but alone nonetheless." Robert's gaze was steady, assessing. The man she lost, James, he was good for her. Kind, patient, understood that beneath all that brilliance and drive was someone who needed to be seen for who she really was. Sierra felt her chest tighten at the mention of James's name. She'd deliberately not told Logan much about him, keeping that grief private and contained. "Dad," she started, but Robert continued, "I'm not comparing you to him. That wouldn't be fair to either of you, but I need to know that you understand what you're taking on. Sierra doesn't do anything halfway. If she's let you in, even a little, it means she's trusting you with something precious. Don't make me regret seeing that trust in her eyes." Logan's expression had gone serious, all traces of casual charm vanished. "Mr. Vale, I understand exactly what's at stake. I have a daughter who's already been abandoned by one person who was supposed to love her. I would never, ever treat Sierra's trust, or Mia's, as anything less than the gift it is." Robert studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Good. That's what I needed to hear." The tension broke as Catherine and Mia returned, the little girl carrying a small bag of bread pieces and practically vibrating with excitement. The rest of brunch passed in lighter conversation, with Mia charming everyone by very seriously explaining her strategy for ensuring all the birds got equal amounts of bread. "You have to watch carefully," she instructed Robert, who'd been recruited to help with the distribution. "The big birds try to take more, but the little birds need it too." "An excellent lesson in resource allocation," Robert said. "Are you sure you're only 6? Mia giggled. "I'll be 7 in August." "Well, you're very mature for almost 7. Sierra watched her father, the man who'd always been slightly awkward around children, who'd treated even young Sierra more like a small adult than a kid, crouch beside Mia and patiently help her tear bread into bird-appropriate pieces. Something in her chest ached with the sweetness of it. Logan's hand found hers under the table again, and this time she was the one who laced their fingers together, drawing comfort from the contact. "They love her," she whispered. "Hard not to," Logan replied, watching his daughter explain bird politics to a retired mathematics professor. After brunch, as they lingered over coffee, decaf for Mia, who'd requested to try grown-up coffee and been disappointed by the lack of sugar, Catherine brought up the evening's plans. "We were thinking dinner somewhere casual tonight, unless you have other plans." Sierra and Logan exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed Saturday evening in detail, assuming her parents would want time alone. "We're flexible," Sierra said carefully. "Actually," Robert said, in the tone that meant he'd been thinking about something, "I noticed that family fun center on the drive here, the one with mini golf and arcade games. Mia, would you be interested in something like that?" Mia's eyes went wide. "Really? We could go?" "If your father doesn't mind spending an afternoon with 3 old people—" "Dad, you're not old," Sierra protested. "Then I think it might be enjoyable," Robert finished, ignoring the interruption. Logan looked like he was trying not to laugh. "I don't mind at all, sir. Though I should warn you, I'm competitive about mini golf." "Excellent, so am I." And that was how Sierra found herself 2 hours later at a family entertainment center she wouldn't have known existed, watching her father and her fake boyfriend engage in an increasingly intense mini golf competition while her mother kept score and Mia provided running commentary. "Daddy's really good at the windmill hole," Mia announced as Logan sank a difficult putt. "He practices with me at the park sometimes." "Does he now?" Robert lined up his own shot with mathematical precision. "Let's see if practice beats theory." His ball curved perfectly around the obstacle and dropped into the hole. "That's 2 under par for you, Robert," Catherine called out. "Logan's still ahead by 1 stroke." Sierra stood slightly apart, her phone buzzing insistently in her pocket. She'd been ignoring it for the past hour, but finally pulled it out to find 15 missed calls and twice as many messages. Most were from Marcus Chen, her VP of Operations, each one more urgent than the last. The final message made her blood run cold. "Anderson merger in jeopardy. Nexus Corp making counteroffer. Need you now." "Excuse me," she said quietly, stepping away from the group. She dialed Marcus, who answered on the first ring. Sierra, thank God, where are you? I'm out. What's happening with Anderson? Nexus came in with an offer 20% higher than ours, plus guaranteed board seats and some kind of technology sharing agreement that Anderson's CEO is actually considering. We need to counter immediately, or we lose this deal. Sierra's mind raced. The Anderson merger had been months in the making, a carefully orchestrated acquisition that would position Veil Technologies as the dominant player in AI development. Losing it to Nexus Corp, their biggest competitor, led by the ruthless Victor Marsh, would be catastrophic. I need 2 hours, she said. Get the team together for a video conference. I'll have a counterproposal ready by then. Sierra, this is huge. Can you really? 2 hours, Marcus. I'll handle it. She hung up and turned to find Logan watching her, concern etched on his face. He said something to her parents, then jogged over. Everything okay? Work crisis. I need to deal with it, but she looked back at her parents, at Mia laughing as she attempted an impossible shot. I can't just leave. Yes, you can, Logan said firmly. Tell them the truth. That work needs you. They'll understand. But the whole point of this weekend is to show them you're happy. And part of being happy is having work that matters to you. They know that, Sierra. She wanted to argue, but he was right. She walked back to the group, forcing her expression into something apologetic. Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry, but there's an emergency at work. A deal I've been working on for months is falling apart, and I need to handle it. Catherine's face fell slightly, but she rallied quickly. Of course, sweetheart. We understand. I can come with you, Logan offered, playing his role perfectly. No, stay, please. Finish the game. Show Dad that theory doesn't always beat practice. She managed to smile. I'll be back for dinner, I promise. Robert came over, placing a hand on her shoulder. Go take care of your business. We'll keep Logan and Mia entertained. You're sure? Positive. Though I expect a rematch when you return. Logan's beating me, and I suspect he's not even trying very hard. Sierra called for a car, and 15 minutes later was racing back to her penthouse to grab her laptop and join the emergency video conference. But as the city blurred past her window, all she could think about was the look on her father's face when he'd placed his hand on her shoulder, proud, understanding, completely convinced that the life she'd built was real. The weight of that deception felt heavier with every mile. She made it home, set up her laptop, and spent the next 3 hours in back-to-back calls with her team, her lawyers, and finally with Anderson's CEO himself. By the time she'd crafted a counter-proposal that addressed every concern and sweetened the deal enough to make Nexus's offer look stingy, she was exhausted. But they'd done it. Anderson was back at the table, the merger was salvaged, and Veil Technologies' future was secure. Sierra closed her laptop and checked her phone to find a text from Logan. Your dad won. Barely. Mia says to tell you the arcade has a game where you can win stuffed animals, and she has her eye on a penguin. Dinner at 7? She smiled, typing back. I'll be there. And tell Mia the penguin is as good as hers. The response came quickly. She says you're the best. Your mom agrees. Your dad's withholding judgment until he sees your mini golf skills. Sierra laughed out loud in her empty penthouse, the sound surprising her. When was the last time she'd laughed like that? When was the last time she'd felt this light despite the weight of everything she was carrying? She showered quickly, changed into jeans and a simple sweater, and headed back out to meet them at the restaurant they'd chosen. A casual Italian place that Mia had apparently selected based entirely on the fact that they had spaghetti and breadsticks. When Sierra arrived, she found them already seated at a large booth, Mia clutching a stuffed penguin that was nearly as big as she was. You got it, Sierra slid in beside Logan, who shifted to make room. Logan won it, Mia announced proudly. He had to knock down all the bottles, and he did it in one try. I had good motivation, Logan said, his shoulder pressing against Sierra's in the close confines of the booth. Dinner was relaxed and easy, the conversation flowing between work talk, Robert asking intelligent questions about the merger that Sierra found herself actually enjoying answering, and lighter topics like Mia's upcoming birthday and Catherine's book club's latest selection. We're reading a romance novel, Catherine said with a mischievous smile. The kind with shirtless men on the cover. Mom! Sierra felt her cheeks heat. What? Your father pretends to disapprove, but I caught him reading the last one. I was analyzing the character development, Robert said with dignity. Sure you were, dear. Logan was grinning, clearly enjoying Sierra's embarrassment. She kicked him lightly under the table, and he caught her foot between his ankles, holding it there in a gesture that felt both playful and intimate. They were halfway through their meals when Mia, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet for several minutes, suddenly spoke up. Daddy, my chest feels funny. Logan's attention snapped to his daughter immediately. Funny how, Bug? Tight, like before. Sierra saw the blood drain from Logan's face. He reached for Mia, pulling her closer to examine her. Are you having trouble breathing? Mia nodded, and Sierra could hear it now, a slight wheeze in the little girl's breathing. Where's your inhaler? Logan's voice was calm but urgent. In my jacket, at the apartment. Logan was already standing, pulling Mia with him. We need to go, now. What's wrong? Catherine asked, alarmed. Asthma attack, Logan said shortly. Usually we can manage it with her inhaler, but if she doesn't have it... The nearest hospital is 10 minutes away, Sierra said, already on her phone calling for her car. I'll get us there in 5. They moved as a group toward the exit, Robert handling the bill while Catherine grabbed Mia's stuffed penguin. Sierra's car pulled up within 90 seconds, one of the advantages of having a dedicated service, and Logan climbed in with Mia on his lap, his hand rubbing soothing circles on her back. Breathe slowly, Mia Bug. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Remember? Mia tried, but the wheeze was getting worse. Sierra gave the driver the hospital's address and told him to run every yellow light. Consequences be damned. Her parents climbed into their own car to follow, and Sierra focused on Logan and Mia. The little girl was scared now, her eyes wide and teary, and Logan was holding her while trying to stay calm. She's going to be okay, Sierra said, not sure if she was trying to convince Logan or herself. She's had attacks before, but never this bad without her inhaler nearby. Logan's voice was tight with fear. I should have grabbed it. I should have... You couldn't have known. Sierra reached over, placing her hand on his arm. We're almost there. The hospital's emergency entrance appeared, and they were out of the car before it fully stopped. Logan carried Mia inside, Sierra right behind him, and within seconds they were surrounded by medical staff. 6 years old, asthma attack, no inhaler available, Logan rattled off as they whisked Mia toward a treatment room. Sir, you'll need to wait. A nurse started, but Sierra stepped forward. I'm Sierra Vale, Vale Technologies. I'm a major donor to this hospital, and I'm telling you he goes with his daughter. Now. Something in her tone, the absolute authority of someone used to being obeyed, made the nurse step aside. Logan shot her a grateful look before disappearing into the treatment room with Mia. Sierra stood in the hallway, suddenly unsure what to do with herself. Her parents arrived moments later, Catherine immediately pulling Sierra into a hug. She'll be fine, her mother murmured. Children are resilient. But Sierra's mind was racing in a different direction. Mia's asthma was severe enough to require multiple ER visits. Logan had mentioned drowning in medical bills. And now this, an attack triggered by what? Nothing obvious had changed between when they'd left the arcade and arrived at dinner. Ms. Vale? A doctor approached, and Sierra recognized Dr. Amanda Chen, one of the hospital's top pulmonologists. I understand you're here with the Reed family? Yes, how is she? Stable. We've given her a nebulizer treatment and she's responding well, but I'd like to keep her for observation for a few hours, make sure the attack is fully resolved. Whatever she needs. And doctor, I want the best pediatric pulmonologist on staff to examine her. I want to know why these attacks are happening with this frequency. Dr. Chen nodded. I'll make the arrangements. Sierra's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it the first time, but when it buzzed again immediately, she pulled it out. Unknown number, which usually meant spam, but something made her open the message anyway. What she saw made her blood run cold. It was a photo of Mia at the restaurant, taken from outside through the window, and below it, a single line of text. Back off the Anderson deal, or the kid's next attack won't be so easy to treat. Sierra's hands started shaking. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't just an asthma attack. Someone had deliberately triggered it. Someone had threatened a 6-year-old child to get to her. Sierra, what's wrong? Catherine had noticed her expression. "I need to make a call. Excuse me." She walked quickly to a quiet corner of the waiting room and dialed Marcus Chen. "Marcus, I need you to look into something. The Anderson deal. Has there been any unusual activity? Anyone asking questions they shouldn't be asking?" "Actually, yes. I meant to mention it earlier, but with everything happening, we've had some weird security incidents. Attempted breaches of our servers. Someone trying to access confidential files about the merger. Our IT team traced it back to an IP address registered to Nexus Corp." Nexus Corp. Victor Marsh. Sierra's mind clicked through the implications with cold precision. Marsh was ruthless. Everyone knew that. But this was beyond corporate espionage. This was assault. This was terrorizing a child. "Marcus, I need you to document everything. Every security breach, every unusual contact, every detail about Nexus's counteroffer, and I need our legal team to start building a case." "Sierra, what's going on?" "I'll explain later. Just do it. Now." She hung up and stared at the photo on her phone. Whoever had taken this had been watching them, had followed them from the arcade to the restaurant, had somehow triggered Mia's asthma attack, maybe with an allergen, maybe with something in the environment, and then had the gall to threaten further harm. Sierra felt rage build in her chest, white-hot and clarifying. She'd built Veil Technologies from nothing. She'd faced down hostile investors, aggressive competitors, and her own grief to create something that mattered. And now someone thought they could threaten an innocent child to control her? They had severely underestimated Sierra Veil. She pulled up her contacts and made another call, this one to her head of security. "James, I need a full security detail. On me and on Logan Reed and his daughter Mia, starting immediately." "What's the threat level?" "Extreme, and I need you to investigate Victor Marsh at Nexus Corp. I have reason to believe he's behind an assault on a minor. I want everything. Phone records, financial transactions, security footage from every location he's been in the past 48 hours. That's going to take some serious resources. Use whatever you need. Money is not an object. But James, I want this done quietly. If Marsh knows we're on to him, he might escalate." "Understood. I'll have a team in place within the hour." Sierra ended the call and turned to find Logan standing in the hallway, looking exhausted and worried. "She's sleeping," he said. "The doctor says she'll be fine, but they want to keep her overnight for observation." "I heard. Logan, I need to tell you something." She showed him the photo and the message. She watched as his expression went from confusion to understanding to fury. "Someone did this to her? Deliberately?" "I think so. I think it's connected to a business deal I'm working on, a competitor trying to force me to back down." Logan stared at the phone, his jaw clenched so tight Sierra could see the muscle jumping. "Who?" "Victor Marsh, Nexus Corp. But I can't prove it yet." "Then we go to the police." "With what evidence? An anonymous text and a business rivalry? They'll say it's coincidence." Sierra grabbed his arm. "But I'm handling it. I have security coming, I have investigators on it, and I'm going to make sure whoever did this pays for it." Logan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something that made him take a step back. "You're terrifying right now, you know that? Good. People should be terrified of me when they threaten children." Sierra's voice was ice. "No one touches Mia. No one." Something shifted in Logan's expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "You mean that?" "Of course I mean it. She's—" Sierra stopped, realizing what she'd been about to say. That Mia mattered to her. That in the space of 2 days, this little girl with her stuffed unicorn and wise observations had somehow worked her way into Sierra's carefully guarded heart. Logan seemed to understand what she couldn't say. He pulled her into a hug, and Sierra let herself lean into his strength for just a moment. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for getting us here so fast, for making sure she got the best care, for everything." Sierra pulled back slightly, looking up at him. "You don't have to thank me. Whatever she'd been about to say was cut off by Catherine's voice. "Sierra, the doctor wants to talk to us." They followed her mother back to the consultation room, where Dr. Chen was waiting with another doctor, Dr. Patel, the pediatric pulmonologist Sierra had requested. "Mr. Reed, Ms. Vale," Dr. Chen began, then paused. I'm sorry, are you family? Yes, Sierra said firmly, daring anyone to contradict her. Dr. Chen nodded. Mia's attack was severe, but she's responding well to treatment. However, Dr. Patel has some concerns about the frequency and intensity of her episodes. Dr. Patel stepped forward, a kind-faced woman in her 50s. Mr. Reed, you mentioned Mia has had 3 ER visits this year? 4 now, Logan said tightly. Has there been any investigation into environmental triggers, allergies, mold exposure, air quality issues? We've had the apartment tested. Nothing conclusive. I'd like to run some additional tests. Blood work, allergy panels, maybe a chest x-ray to rule out any underlying conditions we might have missed. Logan nodded. Whatever she needs. And I'd recommend keeping a detailed log of her attacks. Time, location, what she'd eaten, who she'd been around. Sometimes patterns emerge that aren't obvious without documentation. Sierra was already pulling out her phone. I can set up a monitoring system, track everything digitally, flag any correlations. Dr. Patel smiled. That would be very helpful. Are you Mia's mother? The question hung in the air for a beat too long. Sierra opened her mouth to deny it, but Logan spoke first. She's my girlfriend, but she cares about Mia like family. It was the first time he'd said it without being prompted, without playing for an audience. And the way he'd said it, like it was true, like it mattered, made Sierra's chest constrict. After the doctors left, her parents emerged from where they'd been waiting in Mia's room. She's asking for you, Catherine told Logan. Both of you. Sierra followed Logan into the hospital room where Mia lay in bed looking small and fragile, an oxygen monitor clipped to her finger. But when she saw them, her face brightened. Sierra, you came back. Of course I did. Sierra moved to the bedside, taking Mia's free hand. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Tired, but better. Mia looked between them. Daddy was really scared. I was, Logan admitted, sitting on the other side of the bed. You scared me, Mia Bug. I'm sorry. No, baby, you don't apologize for being sick, never. Mia's eyes were already drooping again. Will you stay, both of you? Logan looked at Sierra, a question in his eyes. She nodded without hesitation. We'll stay, Logan promised. They sat vigil as Mia drifted back to sleep, and eventually Catherine and Robert came in to say goodnight, promising to return in the morning. She's lucky to have you both, Catherine whispered to Sierra at the door. I can see how much you love her. After her parents left, Sierra sat in the uncomfortable hospital chair and watched Logan keep watch over his daughter, his hand resting protectively on her small shoulder. The artificial lights made everything feel surreal, suspended outside of normal time. You should go home, Logan said quietly. Get some rest. I'm not leaving. He looked at her. Sierra, this isn't part of the arrangement. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. The admission hung between them, too honest, too raw. Logan's expression softened into something Sierra couldn't quite name. Okay, he said simply. Thank you. Sierra pulled out her phone, checking the messages that had been accumulating. More updates from Marcus about the Anderson deal, confirmation from her security team that protection details were in place, preliminary reports from the investigation into Marsh, and another message from the unknown number, last warning, walk away while you still can. Sierra deleted it without responding. Let them think she was scared. Let them think they'd won. She was done playing defense. Tomorrow, she would take the fight to them. But tonight, she would stay here with this little girl who'd somehow become important to her, and the man who was looking at her like she was something more than a business arrangement. Tomorrow could wait. Tonight was for keeping promises. Dawn broke over the hospital in shades of gray and pale gold, the light filtering through the blinds in stripes across Mia's sleeping form. Sierra had dozed fitfully in the chair, her neck stiff and her mind refusing to fully quiet, while Logan had maintained his vigil from the other side of the bed, his hand never leaving his daughter's shoulder. Around 6, a nurse came in to check Mia's vitals, her movements practiced, and gentle enough not to wake the child. She gave them both a sympathetic smile. You can take her home this morning if the doctor approves, she said quietly. Her oxygen levels have been stable all night. Logan exhaled with visible relief. Thank you. After the nurse left, Sierra stood and stretched, her designer jeans and cashmere sweater hopelessly wrinkled from the night in the chair. She caught Logan watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What?" she asked. "You stayed all night. In a hospital chair. When you have a penthouse with a bed that probably costs more than my car, where else would I be?" Logan shook his head slowly. "I'm starting to think this whole arrangement was a terrible idea." Sierra's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it was supposed to be simple. 3 days, convince your parents, everyone goes back to their normal lives." He stood, careful not to disturb Mia. "But nothing about this feels simple anymore." Before Sierra could respond, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. Marcus Chen, and it was barely past 6 in the morning, which meant something had happened. "I need to take this," she said, stepping into the hallway. "Sierra, we have a problem," Marcus said without preamble. "Marsh made his move. He's called an emergency press conference for 9 this morning, claiming Veil Technologies has been engaging in corporate espionage and that he has proof." "That's absurd. We've been the victims of espionage, not the perpetrators." "I know that, you know that. But if he goes public first, the narrative becomes about defending ourselves instead of attacking him. The SEC could get involved, the board will panic, and the Anderson deal will collapse." Sierra's mind raced through scenarios, calculating moves and countermoves. "Do we have anything concrete on him yet? Anything we can use?" "Our security team found evidence of the server breaches, but nothing directly tying them to the attack on Mia. It's all circumstantial." "Then we need to make our own move. Call our lawyers, call our PR team, and tell them we're holding our own press conference at 8:30. We go public first." "With what?" "Sierra, if we make accusations we can't prove." "We're not making accusations. We're presenting facts. Veil Technologies has been the target of corporate espionage. We have documentation of security breaches. We're turning everything over to the FBI and letting them investigate." She paused, an idea forming. "And we're announcing that despite these attacks, we're moving forward with the Anderson merger because we don't negotiate with criminals." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "That's risky. If the FBI investigation goes sideways, it won't, because Marsh is guilty, and guilty people make mistakes when they're cornered." Sierra kept her voice low, but fierce. "Set it up, Marcus. I'll be there by 8. She ended the call and turned to find Logan standing in the doorway, having heard at least part of the conversation. "You're going to war," he said quietly. "He threatened Mia. He hurt a child to get to me." "Yes, I'm going to war." Logan studied her face, and whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to keep Mia safe. My security team is already in place outside, but I need you to take her home, keep her close, and trust that I know what I'm doing." "Sierra, I'm going to end this today," she said with absolute certainty. "But I need to know you and Mia are protected while I do it." Logan crossed the space between them in 2 strides and pulled her into a kiss that was nothing like the staged affection they'd performed for her parents. This was urgent and real, a claiming and a promise all at once. And Sierra kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands fisting in his shirt. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Logan rested his forehead against hers. "Come back safe," he said. "I will." Dr. Patel arrived at 7 to discharge Mia, who woke up groggy but stable. Sierra's parents appeared shortly after, Catherine immediately fussing over the little girl, while Robert pulled Sierra aside. "Your mother and I are going to take Mia and Logan back to their apartment," he said. "You have work to do." Sierra blinked in surprise. "How did you—" "I've known you your entire life, sweetheart. I recognize that look on your face. Someone's made the mistake of threatening something you care about, and now you're going to remind them why that was a very bad decision." Robert's expression was grave but proud. "Be smart, be careful, and know that whatever you need, we're here." "Thanks, Dad." He squeezed her shoulder, then returned to where Catherine was helping Mia into a wheelchair for the hospital's mandatory exit protocol. Sierra crouched down beside the wheelchair. "Hey, sweetheart, how are you feeling?" "Better," Mia said, clutching her stuffed penguin. "Will you come visit us later?" "I'll try. I have some important work to handle first." "Okay." Mia reached out and hugged Sierra with the unself-conscious affection of childhood. Thank you for staying with me. Sierra felt her throat tighten. Anytime, Mia. Anytime. She met Logan's eyes over his daughter's head, and the look they exchanged was weighted with everything they couldn't say in front of the others. Then she turned and headed for the elevator, pulling out her phone to coordinate with her team. The town car was waiting when she emerged from the hospital, and Sierra spent the drive back to her penthouse reviewing talking points and strategies. She had 90 minutes to shower, change into armor, the charcoal suit that made her look like she could buy and sell anyone in the room, and get to Vail Technologies headquarters. By 8:15, she was standing in the lobby of her building, surrounded by her executive team, legal counsel, and PR advisors. The assembled press waited in the main conference room, cameras and microphones at the ready. Last chance to change your mind, Marcus said quietly. Once we go public with this, there's no pulling back. I'm not pulling back, Sierra replied. Marsh wanted a war. Let's give him one. She walked into the conference room with the confidence of someone who'd built an empire and had no intention of letting anyone tear it down. The lights were bright, the questions immediate, but Sierra had been preparing for moments like this her entire career. Good morning. I'm Sierra Vail, CEO of Vail Technologies. I'm here to address recent attacks on our company and announce our next steps. She paused, making eye contact with several reporters. Over the past week, Vail Technologies has been the target of sophisticated corporate espionage. Our servers have been breached, confidential information about our pending merger with Anderson AI has been compromised, and we have evidence suggesting these attacks originated from our competitor, Nexus Corp. The room erupted with questions, but Sierra raised a hand for silence. We are turning over all evidence to the FBI for investigation. We will cooperate fully with law enforcement and pursue both criminal and civil remedies against those responsible. She let that sink in, but I want to be absolutely clear about something. These attacks will not deter us. Vail Technologies is moving forward with the Anderson merger. We will not be intimidated. We will not negotiate with criminals. And we will not allow corporate terrorism to dictate our business decisions. More questions, louder now, but Sierra was already moving to the heart of her message. To anyone who thinks they can bully their way to success in this industry, let me be very clear. You picked the wrong company and the wrong CEO. Vail Technologies was built on innovation, integrity, and resilience. We don't back down from challenges, we overcome them. Her voice hardened. And to those who would threaten innocent people to achieve their business objectives, know this. You will be found, you will be prosecuted, and you will face the full consequences of your actions. She took 3 questions, deflecting the more aggressive inquiries with the skill of someone who'd navigated hostile board meetings and investor calls. Then she thanked the press and exited through the side door, where Marcus was waiting with an iPad showing real-time social media reaction. It's trending already, he said. Public sentiment is strongly in our favor. The narrative is shifting from Marsh's accusations to questions about what he's been doing to provoke this response. Good. What about the FBI? Agent Rodriguez is on her way. She wants to see all our evidence. Sierra nodded, already thinking 3 moves ahead. Get her everything. Server logs, security footage, the threatening messages I received. I want this airtight. She spent the next 2 hours in meetings with the FBI, walking them through the timeline of events and providing documentation of every security breach, every suspicious contact, every piece of evidence that pointed to Nexus Corp's involvement. Agent Rodriguez was thorough and professional, asking pointed questions about Sierra's certainty regarding Marsh's culpability. Corporate espionage is one thing, Miss Vail, the agent said, but you're alleging assault on a minor. That's a serious charge that requires serious proof. I have a photo of Mia Reed taken through a restaurant window without permission. I have threatening messages directly linking her safety to my business decisions. And I have medical records showing she suffered an asthma attack severe enough to require hospitalization shortly after that photo was taken. Can you prove the attack was induced deliberately? Not yet, but I'm working on it. Agent Rodriguez studied her with the kind of sharp assessment that suggested she'd dealt with powerful CEOs before and wasn't easily impressed. Be careful, Ms. Vail. If you're wrong about this, it could destroy your reputation and your company. If you're right, you're dealing with someone dangerous enough to hurt a child. Either way, you're in over your head. Then it's fortunate I'm a very good swimmer, Sierra replied coolly. After the FBI left, Sierra returned to her office and found a voicemail from an unknown number. She hesitated, then played it. Victor Marsh's voice was smooth, cultured, and absolutely venomous. "Ms. Vale, I see you've chosen the path of mutual destruction. How unfortunate. I had hoped you'd be more reasonable. Since you've decided to involve law enforcement, let me make something clear. I will bury you. I will destroy Vale Technologies, ruin your reputation, and ensure you spend the next decade fighting legal battles you cannot win. And as for that carpenter and his sick little girl, they're collateral damage in a war you started." The message ended, and Sierra played it again, this time recording it with her phone. Direct threats on a voicemail message. Marcia's first real mistake. She forwarded it immediately to Agent Rodriguez with a note. "Additional evidence of direct threats. Voice analysis should confirm speaker identity." Her phone rang almost immediately. It was Rodriguez. "That was fast," the agent said, and stupid of him. "This gives us probable cause for a warrant." "How long?" "I can have one by end of business today. We'll search Nexus Corp's offices tomorrow morning." "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, Ms. Vale, you stay out of it and let us do our jobs." Sierra agreed, ended the call, and then immediately pulled up the private investigator reports her security team had compiled. Marcia's schedule for the day showed a dinner meeting at an upscale restaurant downtown, Celestine, one of those places where tech executives and venture capitalists made deals over $1,000 bottles of wine. She shouldn't go. She should follow Rodriguez's advice and let the investigation proceed through proper channels. But proper channels took time, and while bureaucracy slowly ground forward, Marsh was still free to make more threats, to hurt more people, to escape consequences through expensive lawyers and corporate shields. Sierra had spent 5 years playing by the rules, being the good CEO, taking the high road, and where had it gotten her? Alone in a penthouse, afraid to feel anything real, isolated from everyone who might actually matter. She was done with the high road. At 6 p.m., Sierra left her office wearing a black dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent and carrying a clutch that concealed a recording device her security team had provided. Her driver took her to Celestine, where she'd made a reservation under a false name for the same time as Marcia's dinner. The restaurant was all intimate lighting and quiet elegance, the kind of place where power was brokered in hushed tones over perfectly plated courses. Sierra was shown to a table near the back, and within minutes spotted Marsh 3 tables over, dining with 2 men she recognized as Nexus Corp board members. Victor Marsh was in his mid-50s, silver-haired, and expensively suited, with the kind of polished charisma that concealed ruthless ambition. Sierra had met him a dozen times at industry events, had always found him charming in a predatory way, like a shark that smiled before it bit. She waited until his companions excused themselves, bathroom break probably, before standing and walking directly to his table. Marsh looked up, and surprise flickered across his face before he masked it with a smile. "Sierra Vale, what an unexpected pleasure." "Save it, Victor. We both know why I'm here." "Do we?" He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Please sit. Tell me what's on your mind." Sierra remained standing. "You threatened a 6-year-old girl to manipulate a business deal. I want to know why you thought that was an acceptable strategy." Marcia's smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Though I must say, these wild accusations you've been making suggest you're under considerable stress. Perhaps you should consider taking a leave of absence. For your health." "I have recordings of your threats, Victor. Voice analysis will prove they came from you. The FBI already has a warrant for your offices." "Recordings?" Marsh laughed, the sound genuine and chilling. "My dear girl, I haven't threatened anyone. If someone has been making threats, perhaps you should consider that you've made many enemies in your rise to the top. Corporate espionage is a dangerous game." "One you started." "Did I?" Marsh leaned back, completely at ease. "Or did you simply decide that when a competitor outbid you for a valuable acquisition, the only explanation must be criminal activity? That seems rather arrogant, even for you." Sierra felt her rage building, white-hot and clarifying. "You put a child in the hospital." "I did no such thing, though I understand the girl has severe asthma, such a terrible condition, especially when triggered by stress and environmental factors. It must be very difficult for her father. knowing that his daughter's health is so fragile, so easily compromised. The implicit threat in his words was unmistakable, and Sierra's hand clenched around her clutch, feeling the recording device inside. She needed him to say something explicit, something that couldn't be explained away. "What do you want, Victor? What's your endgame here?" "I want you to withdraw from the Anderson merger. Publicly announce that Vail Technologies has decided to pursue other opportunities, and I want you to issue a formal apology for the baseless accusations you made this morning." "And if I don't?" Marcia's smile turned genuinely cruel. "Then I continue to apply pressure until you break. And trust me, Sierra, everyone breaks eventually. You're no exception, no matter how much you like to pretend you're invincible." "You're threatening me." "I'm stating facts. The world is full of unfortunate accidents and unexpected complications. Children get sick. Companies face scandals. CEOs have nervous breakdowns. These things happen." He paused. "But they tend to happen more frequently to people who make poor decisions." Sierra forced herself to stay calm, to keep him talking. "How did you do it? How did you trigger Mia's attack?" "I have no idea what you're talking about," Marsh said, but there was something smug in his expression now, the satisfaction of someone who'd executed a clever plan. "Though I understand certain environmental allergens can be quite effective at inducing respiratory distress in sensitive individuals. Hypothetically speaking, of course." "Of course," Sierra echoed, her voice ice. "And hypothetically, if someone were to introduce such allergens into a restaurant where a child with severe asthma was dining, that would constitute assault. Hypothetically, it would be very difficult to prove, and even more difficult to trace back to any specific individual." Marsh checked his watch. "This has been illuminating, Sierra, but I have dinner companions returning, unless you're here to accept my terms." "I'll never accept your terms." "Then I suppose we'll see who has more to lose." Marsh's eyes glinted with malice. "Give my regards to your carpenter, and his daughter. I do hope her health improves." Sierra turned and walked away, her entire body trembling with fury. She'd gotten what she needed, enough on the recording to demonstrate Marsh's awareness of the attack, his implicit admission of involvement, his continued threats. But it wasn't enough for a criminal conviction, and they both knew it. She made it to the restaurant's lobby before her phone rang. "Logan," and her heart jumped. "Is Mia okay?" She answered immediately. "She's fine, she's sleeping. But Sierra, where are you?" "I'm handling something. I'll explain later." "Your security guy called me. He said you went to meet Marsh alone. Please tell me that's not true." Sierra closed her eyes. "I needed to confront him. You needed to be smart and safe," which apparently isn't the same thing. Logan's voice was tight with worry. "Where are you right now?" "Celestine Restaurant. I'm leaving now. Stay there. I'm sending your security team to meet you, and you're going to wait for them before you go anywhere." "Logan," "Sierra, please. Just this once. Let someone else keep you safe." The genuine fear in his voice made her relent. "Okay. I'll wait." She ended the call and moved to stand near the restaurant's entrance, watching through the glass doors for the security team. The valets were busy with arriving guests, and the evening crowd was beginning to fill the restaurant's elegant space. Sierra was so focused on watching for her security team that she didn't notice Marsh emerge from the dining room until he was right beside her. "One more thing, Ms. Vail," he said quietly, his hand closing around her upper arm with surprising strength. "You should know that I don't make idle threats. If you continue down this path, if you don't withdraw from the Anderson deal by tomorrow morning, what happened to the girl will seem like a mercy compared to what comes next." Sierra tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Let go of me." "When I'm finished." Marsh's cultured facade had cracked, revealing something ugly underneath. "You think you're so clever, so untouchable in your tower. But you're just a scared little girl playing at being a CEO, and I will destroy everything you've built. I'll make sure you lose Vail Technologies, lose your reputation, and lose every single person you care about, starting with that pathetic carpenter and his sick kid." "Security!" Sierra called out, loud enough to attract attention. Marsh released her immediately, smoothing his jacket and stepping back with a practiced smile as people turned to look. I was simply giving Ms. Vale my card, he said smoothly, pressing a business card into her hand, in case she reconsiders her position. He walked away before anyone could intervene, leaving Sierra standing there with her heart pounding and his business card crumpled in her fist. Her security team arrived 30 seconds later, too late to witness the confrontation, but early enough to see Sierra's pale face and shaking hands. "Miss Vale, are you all right?" James, her head of security, asked urgently. "I'm fine, but I want a full security sweep of my apartment before I go home, and I want eyes on Logan Reed and his daughter, 24/7. "Already done. Ms. Vale, what happened?" Sierra took a breath, steadying herself. Marsh made additional threats. I got most of it on the recording device, but he also physically restrained me just now. I want you to pull security footage from the restaurant. I want evidence of assault. James nodded grimly. "I'll handle it. But Ms. Vale, with respect, you took a serious risk coming here alone." "I know, it won't happen again." The drive back to her penthouse seemed to take forever, and when Sierra finally walked into her apartment, she found Logan sitting on her couch, looking worried and furious in equal measure. "You're okay," he said, standing immediately. "I'm fine." "You confronted a man who threatened to hurt Mia, alone. That doesn't sound fine to me." Sierra set down her clutch and kicked off her heels, suddenly exhausted. "I needed to get him on record admitting what he'd done. I needed evidence." "And did you get it?" "Some. Enough to build a case, maybe not enough to guarantee a conviction." She sank onto the couch. "He's smart, Logan. He said everything in hypotheticals and implications, but he made a mistake at the end. He grabbed me, threatened me directly. There should be security footage." Logan sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "You scared the hell out of me tonight." "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize, just..." He ran a hand through his hair. "I get that you're powerful and capable and used to handling everything yourself, but you're also going up against someone who's proven he'll hurt innocent people to get what he wants. That's not a fight you should take on alone." Sierra turned to look at him, this man who'd agreed to a simple weekend arrangement and somehow ended up at the center of a corporate war. "Why are you still here, Logan? You could walk away from all of this. Take Mia somewhere safe and let me handle Marsh on my own." "Is that what you want?" "No," Sierra admitted quietly. "But it's what makes sense. This isn't your fight. It became my fight when he threatened my daughter." Logan's voice was hard. "And it became personal when I realized He stopped, seeming to struggle with something. "This was supposed to be fake, Sierra. 3 days of pretending for $20,000. But somewhere between dinner with your parents and watching you stay all night at the hospital with Mia, it stopped being pretend, at least for me." Sierra's breath caught. "Logan, I know the timing is terrible. I know you're dealing with a crisis, and the last thing you need is me complicating things. But I'm not good at pretending, and I'm tired of trying." He turned to face her fully. "I'm falling for you, Sierra. The real you, not the CEO or the billionaire or the perfectly polished version you show the world. The woman who hugs 6-year-olds in unicorn pajamas and who stays up all night in uncomfortable hospital chairs and who's willing to go to war to protect people she cares about." Sierra felt tears prick at her eyes. "I can't do this right now. I can't let myself feel this when I need to stay focused on destroying Marsh, I know." Logan reached up, cupping her face gently. "But feelings don't wait for convenient timing. And life is too short to keep pretending you don't care when you do." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. And when she didn't, he kissed her with a tenderness that made her chest ache. This wasn't the urgent, claiming kiss from the hospital. This was softer, deeper, a promise of something real if she was brave enough to reach for it. Sierra kissed him back, letting herself feel everything she'd been holding at bay. The fear, the loneliness, the desperate hope that maybe she didn't have to face everything alone. When they finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of Marsh? Of this, of letting someone matter again and then losing them. I don't think I could survive that twice." Logan's arms came around her, holding her close. "You're the strongest person I've ever met, Sierra. You could survive anything, but maybe you don't have to. Maybe this time you get to keep what you love." They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, until Sierra's phone shattered the peace with an urgent buzz. She pulled it out to find a text from Agent Rodriguez. Warrant approved, raiding Nexus Corp at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Thought you'd want to know. Sierra showed the message to Logan. It's happening. The FBI is moving in tomorrow morning. And then what? Then we see if we have enough evidence to take Marsh down. If the raid turns up proof of the espionage and the threats, he's finished. And if it doesn't? Sierra's expression hardened. Then I find another way. I don't give up, Logan, not when it matters this much. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call from an unknown number. She answered cautiously. Ms. Vale? An unfamiliar male voice, strained and urgent. This is Tom Anderson, from Anderson AI. Sierra's pulse quickened. Mr. Anderson, what can I do for you? I just received a very disturbing call from Victor Marsh. He claimed you've been spreading lies about him, trying to sabotage our deal. But Ms. Vale, I've known Marsh for years, and I heard something in his voice tonight that scared me. A kind of desperation that suggested your accusations might have merit. They do have merit. The FBI is executing a search warrant on Nexus Corp tomorrow morning. Anderson was quiet for a moment. I see. Then I think you should know that Marsh called me tonight and offered to increase his counteroffer by another 15%. But he also said that if I chose to go with Vale Technologies, I should be prepared for unfortunate complications in the integration process. He threatened you. Implicitly, yes, which tells me everything I need to know about what kind of partner he would be. Anderson's voice firmed with decision. Ms. Vale, I'm rejecting Nexus's offer and moving forward with Vale Technologies. Our lawyers will have the final merger documents ready by end of week. Sierra felt a surge of triumph. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. You won't regret this. I hope not. And Ms. Vale, be careful. Marsh doesn't handle losing well. After they hung up, Sierra relayed the conversation to Logan, who looked troubled. He's right. Marsh is going to be even more dangerous now that he's lost the Anderson deal. Let him be dangerous. The FBI raid tomorrow will give them evidence to prosecute, and once Marsh is facing criminal charges, the rest of Sierra's sentence was cut off by the sudden, violent sound of breaking glass. The sound came from somewhere deep in the penthouse, followed by the wail of the security alarm. Logan was on his feet instantly, pulling Sierra behind him with protective instinct, but she grabbed his arm before he could move toward the noise. Wait, she hissed. Let security handle it. Within seconds, James and 2 other security personnel burst through her front door, weapons drawn. They moved through the penthouse with practiced efficiency, while Sierra and Logan waited in tense silence. Minutes stretched like hours before James returned, his expression grim. Master bathroom window. Someone threw a brick through it. This was attached. He held up a brick wrapped in paper, using a handkerchief to avoid contaminating evidence. Sierra unwrapped it carefully and read the message scrawled in angry capitals. Last chance. Withdraw or watch everything burn. That's it, Logan said, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. We're calling the police right now. This is breaking and entering, vandalism, harassment. Already done, James interrupted. SFPD is on their way. And I've called Agent Rodriguez. This constitutes a direct threat related to her ongoing investigation. Sierra stared at the brick, her hands surprisingly steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. He's panicking. Good. Panicked people make mistakes. Panicked people also do desperate things, Logan countered. He turned to James. What's the security status on Mia and the Vales? 2 agents with the Reed apartment, 2 with Mr. and Mrs. Vale at their hotel. Everyone's accounted for and safe. The police arrived within 10 minutes, followed shortly by Agent Rodriguez, who looked annoyed at being pulled from whatever her evening had entailed. She examined the brick, the broken window, and the security footage James had already queued up, showing a figure in dark clothing approaching from the building's service entrance. Face covered, knows where the cameras are, moves like someone with training, Rodriguez observed. Professional job. Can you trace it back to Marsh? Sierra asked. Not directly, but combined with everything else, the voicemail, the recording from tonight, the assault at the restaurant, we're building a compelling case. The raid tomorrow might give us the final pieces we need. After the police and FBI departed, leaving behind evidence bags and case numbers, Sierra stood in her living room surveying the shattered glass being cleaned up by her building's maintenance crew. The violation of her private space felt visceral, a reminder that no amount of money or security could make her truly untouchable. "You can't stay here tonight," Logan said quietly. "I'm not letting Marsh chase me out of my own home." "It's not about letting him win. It's about being smart." Logan moved to stand in front of her, his hand settling on her shoulders. "Sierra, someone just threw a brick through your window. What's next? What if they'd use something more dangerous than a brick?" The thought had already occurred to her, but hearing Logan voice it made it real in a way she'd been avoiding. "Where would I even go?" "My place. It's small and it's not fancy, but it's safe. And Mia would love having you there." Sierra wanted to argue, to insist she didn't need protecting, but the truth was she was exhausted and shaken, and the thought of sleeping in this penthouse tonight, with its broken window and violated sanctuary, made her feel sick. "Okay," she said quietly. "Just for tonight." Logan's relief was visible. He called down to James to arrange for Sierra's things to be packed and transported, while Sierra changed into jeans and a sweater, grabbing her laptop and the essentials she'd need for work tomorrow. The drive to Logan's apartment in the Sunset District felt surreal, like crossing from one world into another. By the time they arrived, it was past 11 and Sierra expected Mia to be asleep. But when they entered the apartment, she found the little girl sitting on the couch in her pajamas, Catherine on one side and Robert on the other, all three of them watching an animated movie. "Sierra!" Mia scrambled off the couch and ran to her, wrapping small arms around Sierra's waist. "Daddy said you were coming. Are you having a sleepover?" "Something like that, sweetheart." Sierra hugged her back, feeling some of the tension drain from her shoulders. Catherine stood, her expression concerned. "Logan called and told us what happened. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just rattled." "Rattled is putting it mildly," Robert said, standing as well. "Someone threw a brick through your window. That's assault, Sierra. This Marsh character needs to be stopped." "The FBI is handling it, Dad. The FBI is handling the legal aspects. But what about your safety? What about—" Robert glanced at Mia, clearly measuring his words. "What about the people who matter to you?" Logan stepped forward. "We've got security on everyone. Multiple layers. No one's getting to Mia or the Vales without going through trained professionals first." Robert studied Logan with the same assessing gaze he'd used on mathematical proofs throughout his career. Whatever he saw seemed to satisfy him because he nodded slowly. "Good. That's good." Catherine moved to hug Sierra, holding her daughter tight for a long moment. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered. "With people who care about you, you don't have to face everything alone, sweetheart." After her parents left, insisting they'd be fine at the hotel with security escorts, Logan put Mia to bed while Sierra stood awkwardly in the small living room, feeling out of place in this modest space so different from her sterile penthouse. "All set," Logan said, emerging from Mia's room. "She wanted you to come say goodnight." Sierra found Mia tucked into bed with sparkles, her eyes already drooping but fighting sleep. "Hey, Bug. You should be dreaming by now." "I wanted to make sure you were okay," Mia said seriously. "Daddy said someone was mean to you." Sierra sat on the edge of the bed, brushing blonde curls back from Mia's forehead. "I'm okay, and your daddy is taking very good care of me." "Good, because you're important." Mia's child logic was simple and absolute. Important people need to be safe. "You're pretty important too. The most important, actually." Mia smiled sleepily. "Can you stay forever? Not just tonight, but really stay?" The question hit Sierra like a physical blow. She glanced at Logan, who stood in the doorway watching them with an expression that made her heart ache. "We'll see, sweetheart. For now, I'm here tonight. Okay?" "Okay." Mia's eyes drifted closed. "Love you, Sierra." Sierra froze, the words hanging in the air between them. Mia had said it so casually, so naturally, as if it were the simplest truth in the world. And maybe for a 6-year-old, it was. "Love you too, Mia," Sierra whispered, surprising herself with how easily the words came. She stood carefully and followed Logan back to the living room, where he pulled out bedding for the couch. "You take my room," he said. "I'll sleep out here." "Logan, this is ridiculous. I can take the couch." Not happening. My house, my rules. Besides, you need actual rest, and that couch is hell on your back. Sierra wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was catching up with her, making everything feel heavy and difficult. Thank you for all of this, for letting me invade your space, for protecting me, for... Logan crossed to her in 2 strides and kissed her, cutting off her thanks with the kind of kiss that said words weren't necessary. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Stop thanking me for caring about you. It's not a favor or a transaction. It's just what you do when someone matters. Sierra closed her eyes, letting herself lean into his strength for just a moment. I'm not good at this, at letting people in, at being vulnerable. I've noticed, but you're here, in my apartment, which is a start. Logan pulled back slightly, studying her face. Get some sleep, Sierra. Tomorrow's going to be intense. She nodded and made her way to his bedroom, which was small and simple and smelled like him, sawdust and clean soap and something indefinably male. The bed was comfortable in a well-worn way, and despite everything, Sierra fell asleep almost immediately, her dreams a confused tangle of broken glass and Mia's small voice saying, "Love you," like it was easy. She woke at 5:30 to the sound of her phone buzzing insistently. Agent Rodriguez calling before dawn, which meant something had happened. "The raid is underway," Rodriguez said without preamble. "Thought you'd want to know." Sierra sat up, instantly alert. "And?" "Too early to say, but we've already found evidence of the server breaches, equipment that matches the signature of the attacks on your systems. If we can tie it definitively to Marsh's orders, we'll have him on corporate espionage at minimum." "What about the threats? The attack on Mia?" "Still looking. But Sierra, I need you to stay away from Marsh today. Completely away. If he's arrested, I don't want him claiming you interfered with the investigation." "Understood." Sierra ended the call and found Logan standing in the doorway, already dressed for the day in work clothes. "The raid?" he asked. "In progress. They found evidence already, but nothing definitive yet. So we wait. The morning passed in strange domesticity. Logan made pancakes. Actual pancakes from scratch, not some catered breakfast, while Mia chattered about her upcoming birthday and whether Sierra liked chocolate or vanilla cake better. Catherine and Robert arrived around 9, having been updated by security, and the small apartment filled with the warmth of people who cared about each other. Sierra tried to work from Logan's kitchen table, fielding calls from her team and monitoring news coverage of the raid, but it was difficult to focus with Mia periodically appearing to show her drawings or ask questions. By 11, she gave up on productivity and instead found herself playing a board game with a 6-year-old while her parents looked on with expressions of bemused delight. "When was the last time you took a morning off?" Robert asked, during Mia's turn. Sierra had to think about it. "I don't remember. Years, maybe?" "You seem lighter," her father observed. Despite everything happening, almost happy. Sierra looked around the crowded apartment, at Mia concentrating fiercely on her game piece, at Logan making lunch in the tiny kitchen, at her mother helping Mia cheat without being obvious about it, and realized her father was right. She was happy. Terrified and stressed and possibly facing the fight of her professional life, but underneath it all, genuinely happy. "Yeah, Dad, I think maybe I am." At 1 p.m., Agent Rodriguez called again. "We have him. Marsh kept detailed records of everything, the espionage, the threats, even notes about hiring someone to trigger Mia's asthma attack using aerosolized allergens. He was planning to use it as leverage if you didn't back down." Sierra's hand tightened on her phone. "He documented attempted assault on a child?" "In detail, including contingency plans if the first attack didn't work. Sierra, this man is a sociopath. He saw Mia as nothing more than a pressure point to exploit." Rage burned through Sierra, white-hot and absolute. "Where is he now?" "In custody. We arrested him an hour ago at his office. He's lawyering up, but with the evidence we have, no attorney is going to be able to save him from serious prison time." "I want to see him. Sierra, I want to look him in the eye and let him know he lost. That he threatened a child and destroyed his entire life for nothing. I want him to know that." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "He's being processed at the federal building downtown. If you happen to be in the area when he's being transferred to holding, I can't control who sees what in a public hallway. What time? 3 p.m. But Sierra, don't do anything stupid. He's already lost. Don't give him ammunition for appeals. Sierra agreed and hung up. She looked at Logan, who'd clearly heard enough of the conversation to understand what she was planning. You're going to confront him, he said. It wasn't a question. I need to. I need him to know that this ends now, that he can't threaten people I care about, and walk away. Then I'm coming with you. Logan, not negotiable. You don't face him alone. They left Mia with Sierra's parents, promising to be back soon, and made it to the federal building by 2:45. Rodriguez met them in the lobby, her expression professionally neutral. He's being transferred in 10 minutes. You'll have maybe 30 seconds when they bring him through that hallway. She pointed to a corridor visible through glass doors. Don't touch him. Don't threaten him. And for the love of God, don't say anything that could be construed as interference. I understand. They waited, Logan's hand finding Sierra's and holding tight, until a door opened and federal marshals led Victor Marsh through the hallway in handcuffs. He looked diminished somehow, his expensive suit rumpled and his silver hair disheveled. When he saw Sierra through the glass, his expression twisted with rage. Sierra pushed through the doors, Logan right behind her, and positioned herself where Marsh would have to walk past her. Ms. Vale, one of the marshals started to protest, but Rodriguez appeared and subtly shook her head. Marsh stopped, despite the marshal's attempts to keep him moving, and stared at Sierra with pure venom. This isn't over. My lawyers will tear apart every piece of evidence, and when I'm free, you won't be, Sierra said calmly. You documented everything, Victor. Every crime, every threat, every plan to hurt innocent people. You were so arrogant, so convinced you'd win, that you kept records. And now those records are going to put you in prison for a very long time. You think you've won? You've made an enemy of one of the most powerful men in tech. I will destroy you. You can't destroy me from a prison cell, and even if you could, you'd have to go through everyone I care about first. Sierra glanced at Logan, then back at Marsh. You chose the wrong target, Victor. You thought I was alone, vulnerable, easy to break. But I'm not alone anymore, and the people standing with me are a lot stronger than you ever gave them credit for. Marsh's face contorted with fury, and he lunged forward despite the handcuffs. The marshals restrained him immediately, but not before he snarled, You're going to regret this, Vale. I swear to God. Move him, Rodriguez ordered, and the marshals hauled Marsh away, his threats echoing down the hallway. Sierra stood watching until he disappeared from view, feeling the tension drain from her shoulders. It was done. Marsh was in custody, the evidence was overwhelming, and the immediate threat was neutralized. You okay? Logan asked quietly. Yeah, actually, I think I am. They were almost to the exit when Sierra's phone rang. Marcus Chen, and his voice was frantic. Sierra, where are you? Federal building downtown. Why? You need to get to Celestine Restaurant, right now. Sierra's stomach dropped. What happened? Someone claiming to be from Marsh's office called and said they had information about the case. They wanted to meet at Celestine to hand over documents. I didn't think, Sierra, I sent our Associate General Counsel, Rebecca Torres. She went alone. When? 20 minutes ago, and she's not answering her phone. Sierra was already moving, Logan keeping pace beside her. Call SFPD, report a possible assault, and get building security to pull any footage they have. They ran for Sierra's car, Rodriguez close behind after Sierra shouted an explanation. The drive to Celestine took 8 minutes that felt like hours, Sierra's mind racing through worst-case scenarios. If Marsh had planned contingencies, if he had people still loyal to him on the outside, if Rebecca walked into a trap. They screeched to a stop outside the restaurant, and Sierra was out of the car before it fully halted. The evening dinner service hadn't started yet, so the restaurant was quiet, staff preparing for the night ahead. Sierra burst through the doors, ignoring the startled host. Has a woman been here? 30 years old, dark hair, wearing a business suit? Yes. She went up to the rooftop terrace about 20 minutes ago. She said she was meeting someone. Sierra didn't wait to hear more. She ran for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, Logan and Rodriguez right behind her. The rooftop terrace was used for special events, with dramatic views of the city and a waist-high railing around the perimeter. They burst through the door to find Rebecca Torres backed against the railing by a man Sierra didn't recognize. Burly, professional, with dead eyes and a gun pointed at Rebecca's chest. "Nobody move," the man said calmly, "or I drop her right here." Rodriguez had her weapon drawn instantly. "Federal agent, lower your weapon now." The man didn't even glance at her. His focus was entirely on Sierra. "Miss Vale, Mr. Marsh said to give you a message. You can put him in prison, but you can't stop what's already in motion. He has friends, powerful friends who don't appreciate interference." "Let her go," Sierra said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. "She has nothing to do with this." "She works for you. That makes her part of it." The man's finger tightened on the trigger. "Mr. Marsh wanted you to understand that there are consequences for your actions, that you can't protect everyone." "Please," Rebecca whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please, I have a daughter." The man's expression didn't change. "Should have thought of that before you worked for the wrong person." Everything happened at once. Rodriguez shouted a warning, the man's gun swung towards Sierra instead of Rebecca, and Logan threw himself in front of Sierra just as the shot rang out. But the bullet never found its target. Rebecca, in a burst of desperate courage, shoved the gunman hard enough to throw off his aim. The shot went wild, shattering a window, and Rodriguez returned fire with precision that came from years of training. The gunman went down, and uniformed police officers Sierra hadn't even noticed arriving swarmed the rooftop. Rebecca collapsed against the railing, sobbing with relief, while Logan pulled Sierra close, checking her frantically for injuries. "I'm okay," Sierra said, her voice shaking. "I'm okay." Rodriguez was on her radio, calling for medical and backup, while other officers secured the wounded gunman. In the chaos, Sierra didn't see the restaurant manager appear on the terrace, didn't notice the commotion near the door, didn't realize anything was wrong until she heard Logan shout her name. She turned just in time to see a second man, another one of Marsh's contingencies, another backup plan, emerge from behind a rooftop utility structure. He wasn't armed with a gun. He was armed with something worse, purpose and momentum, and the kind of desperate rage that came from knowing everything was lost. He rushed directly at Sierra, moving too fast for Rodriguez to get a clear shot, clearly intending to tackle her over the railing in a murder-suicide that would accomplish Marsh's revenge even with him in custody. Sierra saw it happening in slow motion, saw Logan move to intercept, saw the collision that sent both men crashing into the railing with tremendous force. The old ironwork groaned under the impact, and Sierra heard the sickening crack of metal giving way. Logan and the attacker fell together, disappearing over the edge of the terrace. Sierra screamed and ran to the railing, looking down at the restaurant's second-floor balcony 15 feet below. The attacker lay motionless on the decorative stonework, clearly unconscious or worse. But Logan had caught the edge of the second-floor balcony, his fingers white-knuckled around the railing, his body dangling in space. "Hold on!" Sierra shouted, already looking for a way down. "Just hold on, Logan!" Rodriguez was there beside her, along with 2 officers, all of them working to figure out how to reach him. But the second-floor balcony wasn't accessible from inside the restaurant. It was purely decorative, and there was no easy way to get to it. "I can't." Logan's voice was strained, his grip visibly weakening. "Sierra, if I fall." "You're not falling. You're not leaving Mia. You're not leaving me." Sierra was leaning over the broken railing, reaching down even though he was too far away to reach. "Hold on, damn it!" One of the officers had called for the fire department, their ladder truck already en route, but Sierra could see Logan's strength failing. His fingers slipped an inch, then another, and she knew with horrifying certainty that he wouldn't last until they arrived. "Tell Mia I love her," Logan said, and his voice held a terrible finality. "Tell her—" "You're going to tell her yourself!" Sierra was frantically looking for anything, any way to reach him, when she spotted the decorative rope lighting that ran along the terrace perimeter. It wasn't meant to hold weight, but it was better than nothing. She grabbed it, testing the anchor points, and started lowering it over the edge, despite Rodriguez's protests that it wasn't safe. "Grab the rope!" Sierra shouted. Logan looked up at her, his face pale with strain. "If it breaks, we both fall." "Then we better make sure it doesn't break. Grab it, Logan, now!" He released one hand from the balcony railing and caught the rope, his full weight suddenly on the line. Sierra felt it pull taut, felt the anchor points groan, and held on with every ounce of strength she possessed. Other hands joined hers, Rodriguez, the officers, even restaurant staff who'd appeared to help. Together they pulled, hauling Logan up inch by agonizing inch until he could grab the broken terrace railing and pull himself over. He collapsed on the rooftop, gasping for breath, and Sierra fell beside him, her hands shaking so violently she could barely control them. "You absolute idiot," she sobbed, hitting his chest weakly. "You could have died. You could have—" Logan pulled her down into a kiss that tasted like fear and relief and desperate gratitude. "But I didn't. We're okay." Sirens filled the air as emergency services arrived in force. Paramedics swarmed the rooftop, checking Logan for injuries while police secured the two attackers, one wounded from Rodriguez's shot, one unconscious from his fall. Sierra gave her statement in a daze, barely processing the questions being asked. It was Rodriguez who finally pulled her aside, her expression grave. "Sierra, this was a coordinated attack. Marsh had backup plans in place, people loyal to him who were willing to commit violence on his behalf. We need to make sure there aren't more." "How many?" Sierra's voice was hollow. "How many people did he have ready to hurt innocents?" "We're investigating, but Sierra, you need to understand something. You won. Marsh is in custody facing multiple felony charges, including conspiracy to commit murder. These attackers will spend decades in prison. It's over." But it didn't feel over. It felt raw and terrifying and far too close to losing everything that mattered. Logan was cleared by paramedics with nothing more than bruises and strained muscles, and they finally made it back to his apartment well after dark. Mia was asleep, Catherine and Robert keeping watch, and when they saw Logan and Sierra's faces, they knew something terrible had happened. Sierra recounted the events in a flat voice, while her mother held her hand and her father's expression grew increasingly alarmed. When she finished, Robert stood and pulled both Sierra and Logan into a fierce hug. "Thank God you're both safe," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank God." After her parents left, Sierra sat on Logan's couch and finally let herself fall apart. The tears came in great shuddering waves, for all the fear, all the violence, all the ways today could have ended differently. Logan held her through it, his own hand still shaking occasionally from his near-death experience. "I almost lost you," Sierra said when she could finally speak. "You almost died protecting me, and I'd do it again," Logan said simply. "Sierra, when I saw that man coming at you, there was no decision to make, there was just action, because a world where you get hurt isn't one I want to live in." "That's not romantic, Logan. That's terrifying." "Maybe, but it's true." He cupped her face in his hands. "I'm in love with you. Not the pretend version we've been performing. The real version. The brilliant, fierce, occasionally terrifying CEO who also happens to play board games with my daughter and stay up all night in hospital chairs and risk everything to protect people she cares about." Sierra felt something break open in her chest, all the walls she'd built to protect herself from feeling too much crumbling under the weight of his words. "I'm in love with you too, and that scares me more than anything Marsh could ever do. Because love means vulnerability. Because love means I could lose you, the way I lost James. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to survive that again." Logan pressed his forehead to hers. "You're the strongest person I know. But strength isn't about facing everything alone. It's about letting people help carry the weight. It's about trusting that even if the worst happens, the love was worth it." They sat together in the quiet apartment, two people who'd found each other through deception and stayed for truth, holding on to each other like lifelines in a storm that was finally passing. In the morning, Sierra would return to Vail Technologies and deal with the fallout of everything that had happened. The Anderson merger would proceed, her company would be stronger than ever, and Victor Marsh would face justice for his crimes. But tonight, she let herself simply be here, in this moment, with this man who'd become real when everything else in her carefully controlled life had been revealed as hollow. Mia appeared in the hallway, rubbing sleepy eyes. "Daddy? Sierra? I had a bad dream." Without hesitation, they both stood and went to her, Logan scooping his daughter up while Sierra smoothed blonde curls back from her forehead. "You're safe, Bug," Logan murmured. "We're all safe now." Mia looked between them with the intuitive wisdom of children who see more than adults think they do. "You're staying, aren't you, Sierra? For real this time?" Sierra met Logan's eyes over Mia's head and saw her own hope reflected there. Yeah, sweetheart, I think I am. They put Mia back to bed together, both of them staying until her breathing evened out into sleep. When they returned to the living room, Logan pulled Sierra close, and they stood like that for a long time, finding comfort in simple proximity after a day that had nearly destroyed everything. I should call the hospital, Sierra murmured against his chest. Check on Rebecca. Make sure she's okay. In the morning, right now you need to rest. But rest didn't come easily. Sierra lay in Logan's bed, staring at the ceiling and replaying every moment from the rooftop. The gunman's dead eyes, Rebecca's terrified face, the sickening crack of the railing giving way, Logan's fingers slipping from the balcony edge. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him falling, saw a future where Mia lost her father and Sierra lost the man she'd only just admitted she loved. Around 3 a.m, she gave up on sleep and padded quietly to the living room, where she found Logan still awake on the couch, his laptop open to news coverage of Marcia's arrest and the attempted assault. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, closing the laptop. Sierra shook her head and sat beside him. Every time I start to drift off, I see you falling. I didn't fall. I'm right here. But you almost didn't make it. Logan, if that rope had broken, if we hadn't been able to pull you up in time. He silenced her with a kiss, gentle and reassuring. But you did pull me up. You saved me, Sierra. You didn't freeze, didn't panic, you just acted. That's who you are, someone who fights for what matters. I've been fighting alone for so long, Sierra admitted, building walls, keeping everyone at arm's length, convinced that self-sufficiency was the same as strength. And then you and Mia came into my life, and suddenly all those walls seemed like the weakness, not the strength. Logan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Walls keep people out, but they also keep you trapped inside. Maybe it's time to tear them down. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You've already started. He gestured around the modest apartment. You're here instead of your penthouse. You played board games with Mia instead of working. You told my daughter you loved her without even thinking about it. The walls are already coming down, Sierra. You just have to keep letting them. She leaned into him, drawing strength from his solid presence. What happens now? After all this? Now we figure out what comes next, together. The word hung between them, full of promise and possibility. Together. Not a weekend arrangement or a performance for her parents, but something real and lasting and terrifyingly wonderful. The next morning arrived with the chaos Sierra had anticipated. Her phone started buzzing before 7 with calls from board members, investors, reporters, and colleagues all wanting statements about Marcia's arrest and the attack at Celestine. Marcus Chen arrived at Logan's apartment by 8 with a laptop, fresh clothes for Sierra, and updates on the Anderson merger. The deal's solid, he reported, setting up a makeshift office at Logan's kitchen table while Mia ate cereal and watched with fascination. Anderson's CEO called personally to express support and to accelerate the timeline. He wants the merger finalized by end of month. That's fast, Sierra said, accepting the coffee Logan handed her. He's worried Nexus Corp might try something else. With Marsh in custody, the company's in chaos, but there are still loyalists who might attempt interference. Marcus glanced at Logan and Mia, clearly uncomfortable discussing business in such an intimate setting. Should we take this to your office? No, Sierra said firmly. We can handle it here. Logan's part of this now. So is Mia. Mia looked up from her cereal, eyes wide. I am? You are, Sierra confirmed. You're very important to me, which means I want you to know what's happening in my life, even the complicated business stuff. Okay. Mia seemed thrilled by this inclusion. Does that mean I can come to your office sometime? Logan started to protest, but Sierra spoke first. Absolutely. In fact, I think Veil Technologies could use a tour from someone who asks really good questions. What do you say, Bug? Mia's squeal of delight made the morning's stress momentarily fade. Catherine and Robert arrived shortly after, still worried from the previous night's revelations, but visibly relieved to find everyone safe and whole. Catherine immediately took over breakfast duties, while Robert engaged Marcus in a surprisingly sophisticated discussion about merger strategies and corporate governance. Your father knows more about business than he lets on, Marcus muttered to Sierra during a break in the conversation. He taught economics for 40 years, Sierra replied. He just prefers to observe rather than participate. By 9, Sierra's security team had completed a sweep of her penthouse and declared it safe for her return, though James strongly recommended she consider relocating to somewhere with better security infrastructure. The broken window had been repaired overnight, but the violation of her private space lingered in Sierra's mind. "I don't think I want to go back there," she admitted to Logan while Marcus took a call in the other room. "Not permanently. That penthouse was always more about image than comfort, a statement of success rather than a home. So find somewhere that feels like home." Sierra looked around Logan's small apartment, cramped and modest by her standards, but filled with warmth and life and the evidence of people who cared about each other. "What if I don't know what home is supposed to feel like anymore?" "Then you learn. Trial and error. Find a place that makes you want to stay instead of always looking for the next thing to accomplish." It sounded simple when he said it. Maybe it could be. Agent Rodriguez called at 10 with updates on the case against Marsh. "We've identified 4 more individuals connected to yesterday's attack. All of them have been arrested. Marsh is claiming he had no knowledge of their actions, but we have communications proving otherwise. His lawyers are already talking plea deals." "What kind of deals?" Sierra demanded, feeling anger flare hot in her chest. "Nothing that would let him avoid serious prison time. We're talking about the difference between 25 years and 40. Either way, Victor Marsh won't be a threat to you or anyone else for a very long time." The relief was profound, but didn't erase the trauma of everything that had happened. Sierra thanked Rodriguez and ended the call, then turned to find her mother watching her with a knowing expression. "You're exhausted, sweetheart," Catherine said gently. "When was the last time you took a real break? Not a working vacation or a business trip, but actual time to rest and recover." "I don't remember." "Then maybe it's time to start. The world won't stop turning if you step back for a few days." Sierra wanted to argue, to insist that Veil Technologies needed her constant attention, but the truth was she'd built a strong team for exactly this reason. Marcus was more than capable of handling day-to-day operations. The Anderson merger was on track, and she was so tired of being strong all the time, of carrying everything alone. "What did you have in mind?" she asked her mother. Catherine smiled. "Your father and I were supposed to fly back to Boston this afternoon, but we've decided to extend our trip a few days. We thought perhaps we could all go somewhere together. Somewhere quiet, where Mia could play, and you could actually relax." "All of us?" "All of us. You, Logan, Mia, your father, and me. A real family vacation, not a performance or an obligation, just time together." Sierra looked at Logan, who'd emerged from Mia's room where he'd been helping her get dressed for the day. "What do you think?" "I think Mia would love it, and I think you need it." He crossed to Sierra, taking her hand. "But only if you want to. No pressure, no obligations." The idea of stepping away from work, even for a few days, sent anxiety skittering through Sierra's nervous system. But beneath the anxiety was something else. Longing. A desire to be somewhere she didn't have to be CEO Sierra Vale, where she could just be Sierra. A woman trying to figure out how to build a life that included love and family and messy, complicated happiness. "Okay," she said, surprising herself. "Let's do it." They settled on a beach house in Carmel that Robert found through a colleague, private, comfortable, with a garden where Mia could explore and a view of the ocean that promised peace. Marcus agreed to handle everything at Veil Technologies, though his expression suggested he thought Sierra had lost her mind taking time off in the middle of a major merger. "The merger's stable," Sierra told him firmly, "and I trust you to handle anything that comes up. If there's a genuine emergency, call me. Otherwise, I'll see you in 5 days." 5 days? Marcus repeated like it was a foreign concept. "Right, okay. Try not to check your email every 10 minutes. "I'll try." They left that afternoon, the 6 of them piled into a rental SUV with Mia chattering excitedly from her car seat about whether there would be tide pools and if Sparkles would like the ocean. The drive down the coast was beautiful, and Sierra found herself relaxing incrementally with every mile that passed. The beach house was perfect, weathered wood and large windows decorated in soft blues and whites that echoed the ocean beyond. Mia claimed the bedroom with the window seat immediately, announcing it was perfect for reading stories with Sparkles, while Catherine and Robert took the master suite with knowing smiles that suggested they approved of leaving the 3rd bedroom for Sierra and Logan to work out themselves. "We can figure out sleeping arrangements later," Logan said quietly, though his eyes held a question. Later, Sierra agreed, not quite ready to address the implications of sharing a bedroom in front of her parents. That first evening set the pattern for the days that followed. Robert taught Mia to identify seabirds, while Catherine cooked meals that actually tasted homemade, a revelation to Sierra, who'd subsisted on catered food and restaurant delivery for years. Logan and Sierra walked the beach after Mia went to bed, talking about everything and nothing, slowly learning the rhythms of each other's thoughts. On the second day, Sierra's phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, still wary after everything with Marsh, but something made her pick up. "Ms. Vale? This is Dr. Patel from the hospital." Sierra's stomach clenched. "Is everything okay? Did something happen with Mia's test results?" "Actually, I have good news. We've completed the comprehensive allergy and environmental panels you requested. Mia's asthma is severe, but it's manageable with the right protocols. I'm sending over a detailed care plan and prescription for a better preventative inhaler. With proper management, there's no reason she can't live a completely normal, active life." The relief was overwhelming. Sierra looked over to where Mia was building sandcastles with Robert, her laughter carrying on the ocean breeze, and felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you, Dr. Patel, for everything. One more thing. The testing showed evidence of exposure to artificial allergens, exactly what we'd expect if someone deliberately triggered an attack. I've documented everything for the FBI investigation. Victor Marsh is going to face additional charges for what he did to that little girl." After the call ended, Sierra walked down to the beach and shared the news with Logan, who pulled her into a fierce hug. "She's going to be okay," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Really okay. She's going to be better than okay. With the right medication and monitoring, she'll be able to do everything other kids do. No more emergency room visits every few months. No more constant worry." Logan pulled back to look at her. "You did this. You pushed for the testing. You made sure she got the best care. "I did what anyone who loves her would do," Sierra interrupted, "which is apparently what I do now. Love people, care about them, let them matter." "Yeah," Logan said softly, "you do." That night, after Mia was asleep and her parents had retired to their room, Sierra and Logan sat on the beach house deck under a blanket of stars. The ocean's rhythm was soothing, constant, a reminder that some things endured regardless of human drama. "I've been thinking," Logan said, his arm around Sierra's shoulders, "about what happens when we go back to the real world. This has been wonderful, this bubble, where we're just people on vacation. But eventually we have to return to San Francisco and figure out what this actually looks like." Sierra had been thinking about the same thing. "What do you want it to look like?" "Honestly, I want you in our lives, really in them, not visiting or dropping by, but actually present. Mia's already attached to you, and He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I want to build something real with you, Sierra. Not fast, not reckless, but deliberate and honest. I want to see if we can make this work outside of crisis and pretend arrangements." "I want that too," Sierra admitted. "But I'm still figuring out how to balance everything. My company needs me. The merger is going to require intense focus for the next few months, and I don't know how to be the CEO Vale Technologies needs while also being present for you and Mia." "You're assuming those things are mutually exclusive, aren't they? I've spent 5 years building my company by sacrificing everything else. I don't know how to do it differently." Logan turned to face her fully. "Then learn. Start by accepting that you don't have to do everything perfectly. Mia doesn't need a perfect person in her life. She needs someone who shows up, who tries, who cares enough to stick around even when it's hard. That's what matters." "What if I mess it up? What if I let you both down?" "Then we'll figure it out together. That's what people who love each other do, Sierra. They mess up, they apologize, they try again. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present." Sierra let his words sink in, feeling the truth of them settle into her bones. She'd spent so long equating success with perfection, achievement with worth, that she'd forgotten how to simply be human and flawed, and trying her best. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. Terrified, actually. You're a billionaire CEO, and I'm a carpenter who lives in a tiny apartment. Our worlds don't exactly align naturally. So we build a new world, one that works for both of us. Logan smiled. I like that idea. Build something new instead of trying to fit into existing structures. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Sierra asked the question that had been nagging at her. What about the money? The $20,000 I paid you for the weekend arrangement? Logan was quiet for a long moment. Keep it. Use it to set up a trust for Mia's medical expenses or her college fund. I don't want our relationship to have started as a transaction I profited from. That money represents something we've moved beyond. Logan, you need it. The medical bills will get paid. I'll pick up extra work. I'll figure it out. But I won't build our future on money that came from pretending to love you. Not when the real thing turned out to be so much better than anything I could have faked. Sierra felt her throat tighten with emotion. You're impossibly stubborn, says the woman who argued with the FBI about confronting a dangerous criminal. We're well matched in that department. She laughed despite the tears threatening to spill over. I suppose we are. The remaining days at the beach house passed in a haze of simple pleasures Sierra had forgotten existed. Morning walks with coffee, afternoon card games with Mia, evening conversations with her parents about everything from politics to philosophy. Robert taught her to appreciate the mathematical beauty in seashell spirals, while Catherine shared stories from Sierra's childhood that made Logan laugh and Mia demand to hear more about what Sierra was like as a little girl. On their last night, Catherine pulled Sierra aside, while the others were cleaning up from dinner. You seem different, her mother said. Lighter, somehow. More like yourself. More like myself or more like who you want me to be? More like the Sierra I remember before you built all those walls. The girl who believed in possibilities and wasn't afraid to love people. Catherine touched her daughter's face gently. I'm glad you found your way back to her, and I'm glad you found Logan and Mia. They're good for you. I love them, Mom, both of them. Is that crazy? It's only been a week. Sometimes the most important things happen fast. Your father proposed to me after 3 weeks. When you know, you know. Catherine smiled. Besides, I don't think you fell in love with them in a week. I think you've been falling since the moment Logan agreed to this ridiculous arrangement. You just finally stopped fighting it. That night, Sierra made a decision. She found Logan on the deck after everyone else had gone to bed and took his hand. Come inside with me, she said. He followed her to the third bedroom they'd been avoiding all week. Sierra closed the door behind them and turned to face him. I don't want to sleep alone anymore, she said simply. Not tonight, not when we get back home, not ever again if I can help it. I want to fall asleep next to you and wake up knowing you're there. I want to build a life with you and Mia, and I want to start now, tonight, instead of waiting until everything is perfect or safe or certain. Logan crossed to her in 2 strides and kissed her with an intensity that stole her breath. Are you sure? Because once we do this, once we make this real in every way, I'm not letting you go. Not when work gets hard, not when we fight, not when you get scared and want to run back behind your walls. I'm sure, Sierra said firmly. I'm terrified and uncertain about 1,000 things, but I'm sure about this. About you. About us. They made love with a tenderness that surprised Sierra, used to efficiency and performance in every aspect of her life. Logan took his time, learning her body with the same careful attention he brought to his woodworking, and Sierra discovered that vulnerability and intimacy could be a strength rather than a weakness. Afterward, lying tangled together in sheets that smelled like ocean air, Logan traced patterns on her shoulder and asked the question she'd been avoiding. What happens with your penthouse? Are you going to keep it? I don't think so. It never felt like home, just an expensive box to store my life between work commitments. Sierra paused, gathering courage. I was thinking maybe I could find a house instead. Something with a yard for Mia to play in, a real kitchen for family dinners, space for all of us. Logan propped himself up on one elbow to look at her. All of us? If you want. I know your apartment is important to you, but it's small for 3 people. And with Mia's health needs, a place with better air quality and outdoor space would be beneficial. I could find something in a good school district close enough to your work that the commute wouldn't be terrible. And he silenced her with a kiss. Breathe, Sierra. You're spiraling. I'm planning. Planning is what I do. I know, and I love that about you, But you're also asking if my daughter and I want to live with you, and that's a conversation we should have when you're not naked and vulnerable. Sierra felt heat rise to her cheeks. Fair point. Can we table it for tomorrow? We can table it for however long you need. Just know that my answer is going to be yes. Enthusiastically, yes. Mia asks me every night when Sierra is coming back, and I don't want to keep telling her soon when I could just say she's already here. They returned to San Francisco 5 days later, tanned and rested and fundamentally changed in ways that weren't immediately visible but ran deep. Sierra went back to Vail Technologies and threw herself into finalizing the Anderson merger with renewed focus, but she also left the office by 6 most evenings to have dinner with Logan and Mia. She started delegating more to her executive team, trusting them to handle problems she would have micromanaged in the past. The merger completed successfully 3 weeks later, positioning Vail Technologies as the undisputed leader in AI innovation. Sierra stood in the boardroom accepting congratulations from investors and colleagues, and all she could think about was getting home to tell Mia about the celebration cake the office had ordered, because the 6-year-old had become fascinated with how different companies celebrated success. Victor Marsh was sentenced to 32 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to corporate espionage, conspiracy to commit assault, attempted murder, and a dozen other charges. Sierra attended the sentencing with Rebecca Torres, who'd recovered from her ordeal and returned to work with a promotion and a generous bonus. When Marsh was led out of the courtroom in shackles, he locked eyes with Sierra one final time. She met his gaze without flinching, without fear, and mouthed 2 words: I won. The house hunting took longer than Sierra expected, mainly because she kept finding reasons to reject perfectly good properties. Too modern, too traditional, wrong neighborhood, weird layout. Finally, Logan called her out on it over dinner at his apartment. You're self-sabotaging, he said, while Mia colored at the table beside them. Every house we've seen has been fine, but you're looking for reasons to say no. I just want to find the right place. No, you want to find the perfect place, which doesn't exist. Sierra, home isn't about the house, it's about the people inside it. Mia looked up from her coloring. I think we should get a house with a big tree, so we can build a treehouse where Sparkles can have tea parties. See? Logan gestured at his daughter. Mia knows what matters. Trees for treehouses. Everything else is just details. The next property their realtor showed them was a craftsman-style house in Noe Valley with a sprawling oak tree in the backyard, 4 bedrooms, a real kitchen with space for family dinners, and a master suite with windows overlooking the garden. It needed work. The previous owners had let maintenance slide, but the bones were solid. Sierra walked through it twice, looking for flaws and finding only potential. She could picture Mia playing in that garden, could imagine Logan working in the basement workshop the house included, could see herself cooking breakfast in that kitchen while they got ready for the day. What do you think? She asked Logan, who was examining the woodwork with a professional's eye. I think it has good bones. The trim work is original, real craftsmanship. With some updates and repairs, it could be beautiful. He looked at her seriously. But more importantly, can you see yourself being happy here? Not just living here, but actually being happy? Sierra looked out the kitchen window at Mia, who was running circles around the oak tree with her arms spread like she was flying. Yeah, I can see it. Then I think we found our home. The closing process took 6 weeks, during which Sierra continued splitting her time between her penthouse and Logan's apartment, never quite comfortable in either space, but counting down the days until they could all be together under one roof. She hired Logan's company to handle the renovation work, partly because she trusted his eye for quality, and partly because she liked watching him work with his hands, building something real and lasting. Mia's 7th birthday fell in the middle of the renovation chaos. They celebrated with a party in the unfinished backyard. Mia's school friends running wild while Catherine supervised cake and Robert organized an elaborate scavenger hunt. Sierra sat on the back steps with Logan, watching Mia open presents with the kind of unselfconscious joy that reminded Sierra what happiness was supposed to look like. This is what you built all those walls to avoid, Logan observed. This mess, this chaos, this risk of loving people who might leave or disappoint you. I was an idiot. You were scared. There's a difference. He took her hand. But you're not anymore. Or if you are, you're doing it anyway. Doing what? Choosing love over safety. Choosing this beautiful, messy, imperfect life over the sterile perfection you used to hide behind. Sierra leaned her head on his shoulder. Best choice I ever made. They moved into the house in September, 3 months after that chaotic weekend that started with a fake boyfriend arrangement and ended with Sierra's entire life transformed. The first night in their new home, they ordered pizza because the kitchen wasn't quite finished, ate sitting on the floor because the dining table hadn't been delivered yet, and tucked Mia into her new bedroom with its view of the oak tree. This is our house now, Mia said, clutching sparkles. All of ours together. All of ours together, Sierra confirmed, kissing her forehead. Forever. After Mia fell asleep, Sierra and Logan stood in the master bedroom looking out at the garden illuminated by moonlight. No regrets? Logan asked. Not a single one. You? Just one. He turned to face her, and Sierra's heart stuttered at the intensity in his expression. I regret that I agreed to that weekend arrangement for money instead of asking you out like a normal person. I regret that our relationship started with a lie instead of honest feelings. Logan, let me finish. He took both her hands. I regret how we started, but I don't regret where we ended up, and I don't want to spend another day pretending this is temporary or conditional or anything less than permanent. He dropped to one knee, and Sierra's breath caught as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Sierra Vale, you hired me to pretend to be your boyfriend for a weekend. Instead, you gave me a reason to believe in second chances and new beginnings. You gave Mia a mother who loves her, and you gave me a partner who challenges me to be better every single day. Will you marry me? For real this time, no arrangement, no pretending, just two people who found each other in the most ridiculous way possible and decided to build something real. Sierra was crying and laughing simultaneously, tears streaming down her face as she pulled Logan to his feet. Yes, absolutely yes, but on one condition. What's that? We get married on the balcony at Celestine Restaurant, the one where you almost fell, where everything almost ended. I want to take that place where we nearly lost everything and turn it into where we promise each other forever. Logan's expression softened with understanding. Reclaiming the fear. Exactly. Showing that love is stronger than whatever tried to destroy it. They married 6 months later on a clear February morning. The ceremony small and intimate with just family and close friends. Mia served as flower girl, wearing a dress she'd picked out herself and carrying sparkles in one arm because she insisted her unicorn should be part of the ceremony. Catherine cried through the entire service while Robert tried to maintain professorial dignity and failed completely when Sierra recited vows she'd written about finding home in unexpected places. The restaurant had completely renovated the balcony railing, making it stronger and safer, but when Sierra stood there exchanging rings with Logan, all she could think about was how close they'd come to never having this moment. How a weekend arrangement had become the greatest risk and greatest reward of her life. I love you, she told Logan as he slipped the ring onto her finger. I love you for being stubborn enough to keep showing up with coffee until I said yes. I love you for protecting Mia and me even when it put you in danger. I love you for teaching me that walls are prisons we build for ourselves, and that real strength is letting people in. I love you, Logan replied, his voice rough with emotion. I love you for seeing Mia not as a complication but as a gift. I love you for fighting for what matters, and for learning when to let people help you fight. I love you for being brave enough to tear down your walls and build something new with me. When they kissed as husband and wife, their gathered loved ones cheered, and Sierra felt the last piece of her carefully reconstructed life click into place. She'd lost James 5 years ago and thought her capacity for love had died with him. She'd been wrong. Love wasn't finite or singular. It was infinite and expansive and capable of growing in the most unexpected soil. The reception was held in the same restaurant where Sierra had first confronted Marsh, reclaiming that space too with joy and celebration. Sierra danced with her father while Logan danced with Mia, and then they switched partners, Sierra sweeping Mia into a silly waltz while Robert engaged Logan in serious conversation about joint woodworking projects. Are you my mom now? Mia asked as Sierra spun her around. Sierra's heart clenched. If you want me to be. I know you had a mom who left, and I can't replace her or make up for that hurt. But I can promise to be here, to love you, to show up every single day and choose to be your family. I want you to be my mom, Mia said simply. Not instead of her, just you, because you're here and you love me and you make Daddy happy. You make me happy too, sweetheart. So happy. As the evening wore on and the celebration continued, Sierra found a quiet moment to step out onto the balcony. The same balcony where Logan had nearly fallen, where everything had almost ended before it truly began. She stood at the new railing, looking out at the city lights, and felt Logan's arms come around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how a year ago I was alone in a penthouse, convinced I was fine, convinced I didn't need anyone. And now I'm here, married to a man I hired to pretend to love me, stepmother to the most wonderful little girl in the world, and happier than I ever imagined possible. Life's funny that way." "It really is." Sierra turned in his arms to face him. "Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing through all my walls and defenses to the person underneath who just wanted to be loved. Thank you for taking a chance on a carpenter with a sick kid and a tiny apartment. You could have hired anyone for that weekend. I'm really glad you chose me." They stood together as night fell over the city, two people who'd found each other through deception and chosen to build something honest and real and lasting. The fake boyfriend arrangement had ended months ago, but what they'd built in its place was stronger than any performance could ever be. Inside, the party continued. Mia was teaching Catherine how to do some complicated dance move, while Robert looked on with amused tolerance. Marcus Chen was engaged in animated conversation with Rebecca Torres about the tech industry's future. Sierra's world had expanded from the lonely confines of corporate success to include messy, complicated, beautiful human connection. "Ready to go back in?" Logan asked. "In a minute. I just want to stand here a little longer and appreciate how far we've come. From fake boyfriend to husband in under a year. That's got to be some kind of record." Sierra laughed. "Probably not the kind of record I should be proud of." "I don't know. I think it's a pretty great story. Billionaire CEO hires broke carpenter. Fake relationship becomes real. They defeat a corporate villain together and live happily ever after. Very fairy tale." "Fairy tales don't usually involve FBI raids and attempted murder." "Modern fairy tales do," Logan countered. "Besides, the best stories aren't the ones where everything is easy. They're the ones where people fight for what matters and refuse to give up even when things get hard." Sierra pulled him close, kissing him with all the love and gratitude and hope she'd learned to feel again. "Then I guess we're living a really great story." "The best," Logan agreed. They returned to their wedding reception hand in hand, ready to celebrate with the family they'd built from the ruins of loneliness and grief, ready to face whatever came next together, knowing that the foundation they'd built was strong enough to weather any storm. A year later, Sierra stood in the garden of their home, watching Logan teach Mia how to hammer nails into the treehouse they were building together. Her phone buzzed with notifications about Veil Technologies' latest product launch, the Anderson merger's continued success, and a dozen other professional achievements that once would have been the sum total of her identity. Now they were just one part of a life that included family dinners and bedtime stories, Saturday morning pancakes, and evening walks through the neighborhood. A life that balanced professional success with personal fulfillment, corporate responsibility with human connection. Catherine and Robert were visiting again, her mother helping prepare Sunday dinner while her father sat on the porch reading to Mia from a book about constellations. The house was full of noise and laughter and the comfortable chaos of people who loved each other. "Dinner in 20 minutes, Catherine called from the kitchen. "Okay," Mia shouted back, then turned to Sierra with sparkling eyes. "Will you help me with the final nail? Daddy says it's the most important one." Sierra set down her phone without hesitation. "I'd love to." She climbed up into the partially completed treehouse where Logan was waiting with a hammer and a smile. Together, they helped Mia drive the final nail into place, securing the platform that would become her special place for reading and dreaming and growing up. "It's perfect," Mia declared, looking around at the structure they'd built together. "Thank you for helping me make it." "Thank you for letting us be part of it," Sierra replied. That night, after Mia was asleep and her parents had retired to the guest room, Sierra and Logan lay in bed talking about everything and nothing. They did this most nights now, these quiet conversations that built intimacy one shared thought at a time. I got a call from a reporter today, Sierra said. She's doing a piece on work-life balance for women in tech. Wanted to interview me about how I manage it all. What did you tell her? That I don't manage it all, that I stopped trying to be perfect at everything and started focusing on being present for what matters, that I built a support system of people I trust and learned to delegate, both at work and at home. Logan pulled her closer. That must have surprised her. Completely. She seemed shocked that a CEO would admit to not having all the answers. Sierra smiled in the darkness. But I'm done pretending to be invincible. It's exhausting, and it's lonely, and it's not the example I want to set for Mia. What example do you want to set? That it's okay to need people. That asking for help is strength, not weakness. That building a life worth living sometimes means taking risks and tearing down the walls you built to feel safe. Sierra paused. That love is always worth the risk of loss. Logan was quiet for a moment, then said softly, James would approve, you know. Of us, of this life you've built. He'd want you to be happy. Sierra felt tears prick her eyes. They didn't talk about James often, but when they did, Logan always managed to find exactly the right words. I think so too. I think he'd like you. You're both good men who believed in building things that last. I'm building a life with you and Mia that I hope lasts forever, Logan said. That's the most important thing I'll ever create. Outside, the oak tree rustled in the evening breeze, and somewhere in the house a floorboard creaked as someone moved through the darkness. Their home, their family, their life built from the ashes of what came before. Sierra had learned that endings could become beginnings, that loss could make room for new love, and that sometimes the best things in life came from taking risks on unlikely arrangements. A weekend of pretending had become a lifetime of reality, and she wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that brought them here. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. I love you too, Logan replied. Forever. And in that moment, surrounded by the evidence of the life they'd built together, Sierra knew with absolute certainty that she'd finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not success or achievement or professional recognition, but something far more valuable and lasting. She'd found home. She'd found family. She'd found love that was real and permanent and worth every risk she'd taken to claim it. The fake boyfriend had become the real husband. The weekend arrangement had become forever. And Sierra Vale, brilliant CEO, fierce protector, and woman brave enough to tear down her walls and build something new, had finally learned that the greatest achievement of all was letting yourself be loved. Outside the window, stars wheeled through the night sky above their garden, where a treehouse stood testament to the things they'd built together. Inside, 3 people slept safely under one roof, bound by choice and commitment, and the kind of love that transforms everything it touches. And in the morning, they would wake up and do it all again, building their life one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of presence and connection at a time. Together. Always together. Just as they'd promised. The end.